Chapter 121, Advancing to the Finals. Waves of soul power rippled through the arena, sending gusts that made everyone's clothes flutter. As the two pillars of light that had shot skyward dimmed, a colossal form materialized. Davis and Jujuyun vanished into the spirit, and in their place stood a giant white tiger, an incarnation of their combined martial souls. Its fur was snow-white with black stripes, its eyes a piercing purple, and it was translucent like a spirit. The beast measured roughly 2.5 meters in length and nearly 6 meters at the shoulder, and its presence alone compressed the air with a terrifying, oppressive force. At the same time, Shui Binger, Shui Yuer, and Shui Wu had merged. From the blue pillar of light, a resonant phoenix cry rang out as snowflakes gathered and condensed into a magnificent blue ice phoenix, slightly larger than the white tiger. Brilliant azure light poured from the phoenix, bathing the entire arena. Is that a three-way fusion martial soul? I didn't expect Shui Binger and the others to fuse their spirits to such a degree. What a surprise. Lin Chuan watched the ice phoenix with an unhidden look of admiration. He knew that if it had been only Shui Binger and Shui Wu fusing, the outcome might have been uncertain, but with Shui Yuer added, the phoenix's aura rivaled, perhaps even exceeded, that of the white tiger. The netherworld white tiger threw back its head and roared, then sprang forward on all fours. The ice phoenix answered, beating its enormous wings and gliding down. The phoenix's movements were less swift than the tiger's, but its contained power was immense. The two titans collided with a thunderous crash. Shockwaves radiated outward, and everyone at ringside scrambled back to avoid being affected. Each impact rang like a bell and shook the ground. "Don't let them sneak up on you now," Lin Chuan murmured as he shifted aside. An attacker lunged from behind, but Lin Chuan casually bent his body and drove his knee into the man's abdomen. Even without full force, the strike was enough to leave the minion spitting blood and doubled over, clutching his stomach. Lin Chuan followed with a leg sweep to the head that sent the man tumbling from the ring. The illusionary mirror that had appeared behind the attacker winked out as he fell. "This kind of martial spirit is nasty in ambushes," Lin Chuan said, shaking his head. "Too bad they picked the wrong target." He turned his attention at that moment, a slow smile crossing his face. "I almost forgot you were still around." Duguyan snapped back to attention too and glanced toward the remaining members of Star Luo Royal Academy. "Take care of them," he said, then charged forward. The two girls who accompanied him didn't hesitate. They skirted the clash between the white tiger and the ice phoenix and moved to cut off the retreat. "Defend!" came the shout. With only 4 fighters remaining from Star Luo, 2 of them still auxiliary soul masters, the situation looked grim. The white tiger prepared to aid its masters, but the ice phoenix seized the opening and struck the tiger's flank. The white spirit was hurled several meters backward, light flaring over its body. Clearly, it had been badly hurt. Duguyan closed in and swiped at one of the auxiliary soul masters. The other girl leapt to protect her companion, but with a contemptuous snort, the protector reversed her motion and slammed a strike into the girl's chest. The defender expelled a mouthful of blood and was forced out of the contest. 2 more blows felled the remaining auxiliary sisters. The execution of the attacks was so clean and decisive that everyone in the judge's box and at ringside watched with heightened concern. Has the granddaughter of the old poisoner's martial spirit evolved? Ning Fengji and Douluo Chenshin exchanged uneasy looks. One player experiencing evolution might be fortunate. Both grandfather and granddaughter evolving into the same martial spirit was abnormal. The thought that Dugu Bo, the old poisoner, might have discovered a method to evolve a martial soul flickered through Ning Fengji's mind. If Dugu Bo had such a method, could it be applied to his own 7-treasure glazed pagoda? The pagoda, famed as the strongest auxiliary martial soul on the mainland, had a fatal flaw. It could only gain up to 7 soul rings. Solving that limitation had long been a dream of the 7-treasure sect. The possibility made Ning Fengji's pulse quicken, but a calm voice arrived in his mind, Douluo Chenshin's telepathic admonition. "Fengji, don't get ahead of yourself. Wait until the elite tournament is over. This is Wuhan Palace's territory. We should avoid unnecessary complications for now." Ning Fengji took a steadying breath, tamped down his excitement, and masked his reaction. Back at the ring, Yu Hairo and Gu Qingbo had finished off the last of the Star Luo stragglers. Only the Netherworld White Tiger remained. Davis and Zhu Zhuyan looked at each other, defeat etched on their faces. "We lost," Davis admitted through clenched teeth, but proud stubbornness burned in him. "Not yet. I won't go down without making them pay." Zhu Zhuyan's eyes widened in recognition. "You're going to use that move? Netherworld White Tiger Wave!" Davis roared. The tiger flared into blinding light as its soul power concentrated into a spear of energy and hurtled toward the Ice Phoenix. The energy was so intense, it carved a shallow channel into the ring wherever it passed. Shui Binger and the others weren't about to yield. They hurled all their soul power into the Phoenix. A swirling blast of frost and snow met the tiger's beam head-on. The two energies collided, twisted into an unstable field, swelled into a growing sphere, and when it reached its limit, it detonated. The explosion obliterated everything on the ring. Spirit forms were torn apart and scattered, the air filled with smoke and dust, blurring the arena. Spectators waited in brittle silence until the haze drifted away. When the smoke cleared, Davis and Zhu Zhuyan lay amidst torn robes and blood, humiliated but alive. Nearby, Lin Chuan stood holding Shui Wu in one arm, Shui Yuer in the other, Shui Binger curled on his chest. All three girls were pale and spent, their soul power drained. None could stand. Shui Yuer lifted her head and grinned, childish and proud. "How was that, Xiao Chuan? Aren't we amazing?" she asked. Lin Chuan could only grin, nodding. "You were brilliant. You really surprised me today." Shui Yuer's smile blossomed at the praise, sweet and innocent. A referee hovered down and, after checking that every member of Star Luo Royal Academy had lost combat effectiveness, announced, "I declare Tianshui College the winner of the third match in the fourth round of the finals." The voice carried across the arena. The bout had been spectacular. Two rare fusion martial souls had clashed in a way few had ever seen. Even with Lin Chuan and Du Guyan still having held back, Tianshui College's victory left many stunned. It also showed that Wuhan College's grip on the championship was not as unassailable as some had assumed. Lin Chuan handed Shui Wu and Shui Binger to Yu Hairo and Gu Qingbo respectively. Shui Yuer clung to him stubbornly until he finally escorted her off. With the match concluded, the semifinals were over. The top three teams had qualified for the finals: Wuhan College representing Wuhan Hall, Tianshui College of the Tiando Empire Division, and Shrek College. The final showdown would take place outside the Pope's Palace in 3 days' time, the very square that served as the Spirit Hall's base. Back at their residence, most of the team dispersed to their rooms to recuperate. Du Gubo, Shui Longqin, and a few others, however, went straight to Lin Chuan's door. Their faces were grave. "Lin Boy," Du Gubo said in a low voice, "the finals will be outside the Pope's Palace, the Spirit Hall's stronghold. We seriously harmed the demon bear Douluo before. The Spirit Hall won't stand idly by." Shui Longqin added quietly, "He's right. Getting top 3 is already a great result. There's no need to risk our lives for the championship. Why don't we withdraw now and leave Spirit City?" Gu Yi nodded in agreement. "Old Poison and Dean Shui are right. The Spirit Hall's actions lately have been odd. There's clearly something brewing. A wise man avoids unnecessary peril." Lin Chuan smiled wryly. "I understand your concern, but even if we wanted to leave, it's probably too late. If the Spirit Hall planned to openly detain us, Spirit City would already be under martial law." "So what? If they try to stop us, we cut them down," Du Gubo snapped, the old poisoner's voice cold and hard. With his strength and Lin Chuan and Ye Rong's support, he believed they could stand against even 3-titled Douluo. Lin Chuan shook his head. "Leaving aside the risks, there's another reason I can't walk away. I have to win the championship." "Why?" Shui Longqin asked. "Ling Ling has obtained the god's inheritance," Lin Chuan said quietly. "The first test for that inheritance is to win the elite championship." The room went silent. Then one by one, shocked voices burst out. "What? That can't be. Are you serious?" Gu Yi and Ye Rong looked particularly bewildered. Du Gubo and Shui Longqin stared at Lin Chuan as if he'd suddenly spoken a foreign tongue. Lin Chuan met their gazes steadily. "I'm not joking." He began to explain the situation, recounting the details of Ling Ling's inheritance and the conditions of the godly trial to everyone gathered. and the club room filled with urgent, stunned questions as they tried to grasp the consequences of what he had revealed. Chapter 122, Bibi Dong. I didn't expect the legend of a level 100 god to be true, Douluo murmured, astonishment still clear in his voice as he listened to Lin Chuan's story. He turned toward Gu Yi, a trace of envy in his eyes. Old Gu, your people's lives must be something else. Gu Yi gave a modest laugh. We just had Lin Chuan's help. Without him, how would Ling Ling have gotten this chance? Still, he couldn't hide his satisfaction. Even if he personally didn't inherit any divine power, seeing his descendant become a master was reward enough. Shui Lanqin exhaled, both envious and excited. If that's the case, I'll have to join the finals. Gu Yi and Ye Rong stayed silent, but relief showed on their faces. The requirements for the divine test weren't particularly harsh. The problem was that Ye Lingling was only an ordinary auxiliary soul master with almost no combat ability. Winning would depend entirely on teammates. If Tianshui Academy withdrew, their chances would be nil. Grandpa, Du Yan said softly, repeating what Lin Chuan had told them earlier. Xiao Chuan said that if Ling Ling can inherit the divine throne, the rest of us might get a shot at divine inheritance too. Really? Dugubo's eyes flared with renewed heat. When Lin Chuan nodded, Dugubo's excitement hardened into determination. Then we fight. If the Wuhun Palace tries anything, so be it. We'll do it on their turf if we must. That's one thing, but we should still prepare. If something goes wrong, we at least need to be able to get out of Wuhun City intact, Shui Lanqin suggested softly. Lin Chuan's face brightened. I've got an idea. Do you remember the Star Luo Royal Academy team we faced today? One of their boys has a reflection mirror martial spirit. He can send people through mirrors to appear elsewhere. They all pictured the candidate immediately. When the Star Luo team had arrived, several members had emerged from mirrors. Dugubo frowned. That kid's only a soul sect level. Even if he can move through space, the range shouldn't be great, right? Lin Chuan smiled mysteriously and turned his right hand. A small jade bottle appeared in his palm. True, a soul sect's teleport range is limited, but this will make him strong enough. This is a blood pill, a concoction made from mixing soul beast blood. Taken briefly, it explodes with power. A soul sect who ingests it can rival a soul king for a short time. He explained the catch. There are side effects. The boost lasts only half an hour. After it wears off, the user will be weak for half a month, though it won't damage their foundation. We don't have to evacuate Wuhun City. We just need to stay away from the Pope's palace during the match. Dugubo laughed, impressed. You've really got everything, kid. He calmed at the thought of a plan that might work. How do we get Star Luo to cooperate? Shui Lanqin asked. What's so hard? Dugubo said bluntly. I'll go fetch the kid now. If he refuses, I'll make him regret it. Lin Chuan nodded. I'll leave him to you, Senior Dugu. Just knock him out, and I'll make sure he cooperates. Done. Dugubo rose and vanished into the corridor. Lin Chuan turned to Shui Lanqin. When the finals start, gather everyone early. If anything happens, we need to be able to respond instantly. Shui Lanqin nodded. Understood. We didn't bring many teachers this time, so we won't waste resources. Don't worry too much, Lin Chuan added. The Spirit Hall might not actually move against us. There's someone at Shrek Academy they're even more worried about. He was thinking of Tang San and his twin martial spirits. Between Tang San's notoriety and the enmity between Wuhun Palace and Haoqian sect, any action the Spirit Hall took would likely be split. Even if they struck after the match, Tang San would draw much of their attention. True, Haoqian Douluo might be there too, which would give Wuhun Palace even more to handle, Shui Lanqin agreed. The situation didn't seem as dire as it first had. After sorting out the basics, everyone dispersed. Lin Chuan sat on the bed for a long moment, exhaling relief. If Wuhun Palace really planned to act, they would show no mercy, but he had made progress in the last months. A light curtain of information flickered through his mind. Name, Lin Chuan Soul Power, level 65, 6th Ring Soul Emperor. Blessing, heaven rewards hard work. Blessing from Blue Star's will, your efforts are always rewarded. Skills, Tianshui Meditation, level 7, Guidance Technique, 9-layered Chaotic Source, level 4. Weapon and Combat Skills, Archery, Unity of Nature and Man, Gun Skill, Delicate, Knife Skill, Unity of Nature and Man, Boxing Skill, Delicate, Body Skill, unity of nature and man. Miscellaneous, alchemy, level 4, weapon refining. Other abilities, observation hockey level 4, thunderblade 4, body skill, flowing light 4, water and fire element techniques. Soul skills, explosive arrow level 5, ice arrow level 5, swift wind arrow rain of 4, thunder arrow level 4, golden gang arrow level 3, soul destroying arrow level 3. Enlightenments, mystery of water of all things, mystery of fire of all things. During the preliminaries and his rush to Wuhan City, Lin Chuan had not wasted time. His soul power had increased by a level, and his 9-layer Thunderblade had broken through to the 4th level. His power generation skills were now at 3.5 penks, and his overall strength had risen considerably. Even against a titled Douluo, he could stand a fight without relying solely on soul skills, unless faced with Qian Daoliu himself or multiple super Douluos at once. He thought, too, of Bibi Dong. She should be receiving the Rakshasa god's power now and wouldn't go full out. Since she hadn't fully become a god and still feared the other 2 empires and Qian Daoliu, it was unlikely she would act hastily. Still, it was better to be prepared. Little improvements add up, Lin Chuan muttered. He suppressed the anxious thoughts, settled into meditation, and began training. He set the Luoxia bow in his lap and held the Water Dragon King's Danju and the Fire Dragon King's Danju in his hands. As he tuned himself to the world, he felt his understanding deepen. You've gained a great deal from sensing the world. Your understanding of the mysteries of fire has deepened. You've gained a great deal from sensing the world. Your understanding of the mysteries of water has deepened. 3 days passed in silence. The final match had arrived. Morning sunlight bathed the Pope's palace, making the entire complex glitter like a godly residence. 2 lines of palace knights stood from the palace entrance down to the mountain base, clad in bright silver armor with broad swords at their waists. Their presence was imposing. Only 3 teams remained. The eliminated teams had been driven away by the Spirit Hall and were not allowed to watch the final day. Even the Academy's teachers were absent from the square. Dugubo stood beside Lin Chuan, his expression wary. As a titled Douluo, he could of course be here. The Spirit Hall couldn't refuse him. Senior Dugu, have patience. We've prepared an escape route. Let's see what the Spirit Hall does, Lin Chuan urged. Under the Spirit Hall's arrangements, the 3 teams took their places in the square and waited in silence. Dugubo stood outside the field, accompanied by a man in black robes. Soon, a group of people emerged from the side gate of the Pope's palace. Cardinals, 12 of them, the Spirit Hall's highest officials after the Pope. They took positions by the gate as the crowd hushed. Welcome His Holiness the Pope. Long live His Holiness. The city erupted for a moment, then fell silent as the palace doors opened. Footsteps approached. The sun struck the palace steps, and a woman in a golden gown stepped out, a purple gold crown on her head and a scepter in her hand. Her arrival sucked the attention from the crowd like a magnet. It was Bibi Dong, the current pope of the Spirit Hall. Lin Chuan stared. The stories hadn't done her justice. She was breathtaking. The old phrase about the 3 views following the 5 senses came to mind. Now, he truly understood it. In looks, she was peerless among the women he'd seen, and her majesty only added to it. No wonder Chanshunji had been unwilling to let her go, even when she became a secret room Douluo. It made sense. As if sensing him, Bibi Dong's gaze flicked in Lin Chuan's direction. The cold, unreadable look made him flinch. Her perception was unnervingly sharp. He took a breath, forced his mind blank, and kept his thoughts tightly shut. For a heartbeat, it seemed she'd noticed, but then she turned away and continued down the palace steps. Light gathered around her, and for a moment, the whole square seemed to fall under her shadow. Chapter 123, 3-Way Battle. Bibi Dong stepped out of the Pope's palace, and everyone's knees hit the ground in unison. The members of Wuhan Palace knelt on one knee, faces alight with reverence and excitement. Hail Her Holiness, the Pope! Rise! With a casual flick of her scepter, Bibi Dong signaled them up. 5 titled Douluo trailed behind her. Sword Douluo Chen Xin of the 7 Treasures Glazed Sect, Ning Fengji, Ju Douluo Yueguan, Ghost Douluo Gime, and another slender titled Douluo. The power behind Wuhan Palace was visible in that single procession, though it was only a part of the picture. My children, Bibi Dong said with a smile, looking over the gathered soul masters of the 3 teams, Congratulations on standing out among the 33 teams and making it here to the Pope's palace. I see the future and hope in you. This continent belongs to you young people." Her eyes swept slowly across the arena, no grand gestures, just a simple, intimate glance that nevertheless carried authority. "With the competition almost over, spare no effort. Show all your talents and strength. The final champion will receive a grand prize from Wuhun Palace." She lifted her scepter. 3 brilliant orbs of light drifted out and then faded, revealing 3 very different objects. 3 soul bones, an arm bone, a skull, and a leg bone, each a soul bone of 10,000 years or more. The skull, the oldest, bore an age over 50,000 years. Even to the naked eye, they radiated extraordinary qi. The audience inhaled sharply. Greed and fierce desire flared in many faces. If several titled Douluo had not been standing in front of the Pope's palace, the crowd might have erupted into chaos then and there. 3 soul bones, some of them thousands of years old. Wuhun Palace is truly generous. Shu Yuer, standing beside Lin Chuan, stared at them, her eyes bright with hunger. Lin Chuan smiled and shook his head. "Don't be naive. Do you really think Wuhun Palace would be that generous?" He was the only one who remained calm. Everyone else felt their attention and fighting spirit drawn irresistibly toward the soul bones. Lin Chuan's voice carried over the murmur, quiet but clear. "Look at the properties of these 3 bones. Match them with Wuhun Palace's golden generation, and you'll see why." As his words sank in, others' expressions changed. Among Wuhun's golden generation, Hu Lina specialized in mind control. Xie Yue possessed top-tier power and agility attack abilities, and Du Guyan was a fire attribute power attacker. The 3 soul bones before them, the wisdom skull that condensed spirit, a right arm bone that burst with explosive flame, and a left leg bone that enhanced speed and pursuit, fit those 3 perfectly. "So these soul bones are reserved for Wuhun's golden generation," someone muttered, realization dawning. A few of the girls all at once felt foolish for their earlier hopes. Only a fool would expect such rare soul bones, 10,000-year relics, to be given away without strings attached. Duguyan chuckled lightly, amusement at the corner of his mouth. "Wuhun Palace has a clever plan, but I don't think it will satisfy everyone. Normally, with its 3 soul kings backing it, Wuhun Academy would be untouchable. But the existence of the strange prodigy Lin Chuan at Tianshui Academy complicated matters. Wuhun could not act without caution. Still, those 1,000-year soul bones were bait, no doubt meant to secure certain outcomes for Wuhun's own protégés. Bibi Dong then outlined the rules for the final round. Each of the 3 teams would put forward 7 people for an individual knockout round. For every 3 contestants drawn, 2 would fight first. The winner would then face the third, who had drawn a bye. The team that eliminated both other teams outright would secure a direct spot in tomorrow's championship match. The remaining 2 teams would have to fight in the afternoon's team competition for the second finals berth. The advantage of winning the individual elimination round was obvious. Fewer rounds in the team matches meant less soul power consumption and a lower risk of injury. For Tianshui Academy, however, that concern was less urgent. Ye Lingling's presence could heal even severe injuries. Still, conserving strength was preferable. Let the first match begin. The 3 teams conferred and selected their initial contestants. Lin Chuan stood apart, quietly giving instructions. "Remember what we decided last night?" he asked the girls surrounding him. They nodded. "Send Lu Yu first, then Ruoshui and Qingbo. If all 3 lose, I'll step in. Yanzi, save your strength." No one objected. Even with Ye Lingling on their roster, Tianshui could ill afford to overuse its fighters before the finals. Losing was acceptable if it meant preserving their strongest for what mattered most tomorrow. On paper, Wuhun indeed had the upper hand. 3 50-level Soul Kings cast a heavy shadow. Tianshui could muster only 2 high-level Soul Masters. Shrek Academy, by comparison, was weak. What's more, Wuhun's golden generation carried a secret mission: severely injure, or if possible, kill Tang San. Lin Chuan was a concern, yes, but Tang San, with his twin spirits and limitless potential, was the primary threat in Bibi Dong's eyes. Lin Chuan could be handled later. Tang San could never be allowed to grow unchecked. At the entrance to the Pope's Hall, gilded seats were set out where Bibi Dong and a row of titled Douluo took their places. Time passed quietly as the teams finalized their choices. Shrek Academy lucked out. Its first draw was a bye. But then the match between Shen Luyu of Tianshui and Wuhun's contestant played out as expected. Luyu, only level 42, was overwhelmed and eliminated. Wuhun's depth of talent showed. Next, Jingling from Shrek Academy walked out and, astonishingly, declared surrender without even contesting. Shui Binger frowned. Is Shrek Academy trying to get Tianshui and Wuhun to exhaust each other? Lin Chuan merely nodded and then shook his head. They might have a plan. We aren't their competitors in individual strength. Shrek's lineup is too weak. What are we supposed to do? Let ourselves be consumed? Shui Yuer asked. We stick to the plan, Lin Chuan said. Ruo Shui goes in second. The pattern that emerged became strange but deliberate. Shrek Academy began forfeiting matches whenever they were not granted a bye. Even if they drew a bye, they surrendered after the Tianshui-Wuhun fight. The strategy was clear to onlookers. Shrek sought to conserve its forces for the team match, letting the other two teams fight it out and burn soul power. Wuhun, confident in its strength, took advantage where it could, but also chose to preserve energy when expedient. Bibi Dong watched impassively, scepter in hand. After 3 rounds, 3 players from each team had been eliminated. Brother Chuan, I'll go next. Shui Binger volunteered after Wuhun's 3rd player forfeited. Lin Chuan shook his head. No, I'll go. Save yourselves for tomorrow. Xiao Chuan, are you really going in? Shui Yuer's eyes shone with excitement at the prospect. Lin Chuan smiled faintly and stepped onto the arena floor with a relaxed gait. The move drew immediate attention. Conversations erupted around the venue. Curiosity, astonishment. Even Bibi Dong's expression held a flicker of scrutiny. Shui Qinghe in the judge's seat leaned forward. His eyes flashed with expectation. Lin Chuan was the only male soul master from Tianshui Academy left standing on the individual roster. Many were eager to see what he could truly do. The draw for his trio produced 3 names: Zhuzu King from Shrek Academy, Hu Liena from Wuhan Academy, and Lin Chuan. Fate smiled on Zhuzu King. She drew the token that granted a bye. The immediate fight would be between Lin Chuan and Hu Liena. As Lin Chuan faced his opponent, he felt a pair of calculating eyes settle on him. Hu Liena's gaze, cool and intent. The arena hushed, awaiting the clash. Chapter 124, 3 Arrows Determine Victory. In the 4th match of the individual elimination round, Lin Chuan of Tianshui College will face Hu Liena of Wuhan College. Both contestants will release their spirits. The referee's voice faded as he stepped back from the center of the arena. Hu Liena floated forward with lotus-like steps, a faint smile curving her lips. When she released her spirit, the air around her shimmered. She looked even more enchanting. Fox ears peeked from her hair, and a long, furry tail swayed behind her. Her 5 soul rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple, 1 black, glinted as soul power surged through her. Charming? Not bad, but still not quite right. Lin Chuan smiled lightly, unshaken. Hu Liena's smile faltered. She had expected her charms to take effect immediately. She had won countless matches with them. Seeing Lin Chuan so unmoved, she was baffled. The other side had not blocked sight or hearing, so why was her charm useless? She forced herself to push harder. A faint red light flared across her body, and she fixed her gaze on Lin Chuan. Instead of Lin Chuan faltering, Hu Liena staggered back with a groan, her face paling as 2 thin lines of blood ran from her nose. Impossible. Your mental strength, the crowd murmured. Yan, standing at the edge of the arena, went rigid and shouted, Nana! Red flooded his eyes. Worry and fury warred on his face. Shiyue grabbed his shoulder to steady him. Calm down, Yan, she hissed, but her own worry showed. Hu Liena's martial soul was a fox demon, her abilities centered on charm. Those skills were devastating against ordinary opponents, but they backfired against anyone with superior mental force. It became clear, Lin Chuan's inner strength was much greater than expected. Hu Liena refused to give up. She snorted and unleashed another soul skill. A purple ring flashed behind her. 3rd skill, the wonderful fox song. Her voice became honey-sweet, like a slender hand plucking at the heart. The air before Lin Chuan blurred, and phantoms coalesced, beautiful, familiar faces stepping out of the illusion. Shui Lanqin appeared in cool, revealing attire, cheeks flushed and eyes shining with desire. Xiao Chuan, come here, she breathed, her hands beckoning. Shui Binger and Shui Yuer materialized beside her, hand in hand. Xiao Chuan, Binger and I both love you. Stay with us forever. The scent of perfume filled the air. One by one more women emerged. Ye Lingling and Ye Rong, Shuiwu, Yu Hairo, even Xiaowu, Leng Man, Qin Shan, and Bibi Dong, until Lin Chuan was surrounded by a crowd of enticing images. The crowd laughed nervously at the spectacle, but Lin Chuan's face hardened. No, this is ridiculous, he muttered. He was a serious man. Accusations of being weak-willed or frittering his heart away were absurd. He snorted. Coldly. A pulse of his soul power swept outward, and the illusions shattered like glass. The seductive scene evaporated. Only a moment had passed outside, though it had felt longer inside the illusion. Hu Lina's next attack had no such grace. Second skill, the Sky Fox Tail. Spikes sprouted along the tip of Hu Lina's foxtail. It lashed out and wrapped around Lin Chuan with blinding speed. The tail bound and pierced, tactile charm that both entrapped and inflicted pain, leaving victims limp and helpless. Lin Chuan smirked as he coughed, his form disappearing in an instant. He moved with impossible speed. Ning Fengji's eyes widened in disbelief. Hu Liena, who had seemed in control, was suddenly on the back foot. Lin Chuan hadn't even used his martial spirit yet. He'd been playing with her. That's enough, he said coolly. A black longbow flashed into his hand out of nowhere. For a moment people gaped. No spirit ring marked this martial spirit. Then he drew and released. Explosive arrow. A fire arrow hissed through the air. Hu Lina had barely time to react. The arrow detonated in a hellish blast that swallowed her. Flames roared, and the arena filled with choking smoke. When the dust cleared, a figure rolled out from the wreckage and slammed into the ground several meters away. Yan's cry tore out of him again, helpless and loud. Hu Lina lay there, clothes singed and shredded, skin blistered where the fire had eaten through fabric. The smell of burning hair and flesh hung bitterly in the air. She tried to rise, stubbornness flashing in her face, but the pain kept her pinned. Lin Chuan didn't hesitate. He let another arrow fly, this one pale and white, and it struck Hu Lina squarely. She screamed and collapsed, unconscious. From the crowd, Yan's voice surged. "Asshole! I'll kill you!" Flames answered him. A towering plume of magma and fire erupted and arced straight for Lin Chuan. Black smoke curled as heat washed over the arena. Lin Chuan looked up at the sky, eyes steady despite the searing heat. He drew again. Golden arrow! A shaft of pure golden light screamed forward, cutting through the magma like a blade through silk. To everyone's shock, the golden arrow blasted through the fiery torrent as if nothing stood in its way. Stop! A thunderous voice rang out across the square. The chrysanthemum Douluo, who had been seated beside Bibi Dong, vanished from his place and reappeared beside Yan in an instant. A huge chrysanthemum-shaped soul manifestation bloomed behind him as he reached out and grabbed the golden arrow. He had clearly misjudged its power. The arrow's force drove into his palm. He grunted as blood welled up. Golden filaments continued past his grip and streaked toward Yan. Yan took the blow, coughed up blood, and collapsed like a puppet with its strings cut. "Little ghost, it's you," Yuguan growled, glaring at Lin Chuan. He was a titled Douluo. To be wounded trying to stop an attack embarrassed him deeply. Before he could act further, a cold voice cut through the tension. "Juhua Douluo, you coward. Interfering in junior matches is despicable. If you want to fight, fight me. I've wanted to crush your chrysanthemum for a long time." Dugubo stepped forward, eyes icy as moonlight, facing Yueguan with no deference. "This is the Pope's palace. Do you want to die?" Yuguan almost roared, but Dugubo sneered, unafraid. "So what if it's the Pope's palace? You were the first to break the rules by interfering. That should have disqualified you. Are you going to silence people after you lose?" Dugubo retorted. "You." Yuguan's face flushed with anger. The arena crackled as both sides prepared to clash, but then a commanding voice cut through like a blade. "I've said enough. Elder Jew, return." The Pope's voice held absolute authority. Yuguan froze, the anger drained from his face. He shot a hard look at Dugubo and Lin Chuan before snatching up Yan and heading off the field with Xie Yue, who was supporting the injured Hu Lina. Bibi Dong turned to Lin Chuan, eyes assessing. "Your name is Lin Chuan, right? Very impressive. I didn't expect such talent in this elite contest. You've given me a pleasant surprise." Lin Chuan bowed politely. "Your Highness the Pope is too kind." Bibi Dong's gaze slid away, and she tapped her scepter lightly. Wuhun Academy voluntarily forfeits the first half of the finals and will enter the loser's bracket to fight for the remaining final spot this afternoon. The announcement exploded through the arena. It was the Pope speaking. No one dared oppose it. For a moment, the square buzzed with disbelief. Then Yu Xiaogang rose from Shrek Academy's rest area. He met Bibi Dong's gaze and took a deep breath. Shrek Academy will also forfeit the first half of the finals and enter the loser's bracket this afternoon to face Wuhun Academy for another chance at the finals. He had watched Lin Chuan's strength and been shaken. Still, he made the bold choice to follow Bibi Dong's lead. The Shrek team supported the decision wholeheartedly. Tang San and the others were still recovering from the previous fight. Bibi Dong nodded once to Yu Xiaogang, expression unreadable. Lin Chuan stood quietly in the center of the arena, his bow at his side, as the crowd processed the sudden shift in plans. The 3 arrows he had released, each decisive in its own way, had not only won the match, but set events into motion that would reshape the next stage of the competition. Chapter 125, Yu Xiaogang. There can be no problem with my theory. No one had expected the first half of the finals to end the way it did. Tianshui Academy advancing to tomorrow's finals was a shock to everyone. Lin Chuan's performance had stunned the crowd. The secret weapon Tianshui had been hiding was devastating, and Wuhun Academy had paid a heavy price. 2 of their key players were seriously injured, and that alone would affect the afternoon matches. What had been a favorable situation for Shrek Academy had swung wildly. Under Yu Xiaogang's leadership, the Shrek group didn't linger in the arena. They left quickly to prepare for the afternoon bout against Wuhun Academy, the mood along the way heavy and subdued. Why so quiet? Wuhun's Hulina and Yan are badly hurt. Whatever else, that's good news. It increases our chances of reaching the finals, Yu Xiaogang said suddenly, glancing around at the others. Ma Hongjin only muttered. The pressure Lin Chuan had exerted on them was enormous. Everyone felt it. They'd always regarded Wuhun's 3 Soul Kings as the toughest opponents in this elite competition, but now someone had beaten them decisively. If it weren't for what they'd seen, they wouldn't have believed it. How did Lin Chuan train? How could he be so strong? Oscar scratched his head, more bewildered than comforted. The rest of the team was silent, expressions dark. Yu Xiaogang sighed, and a nervous flush crossed his face. Xiaosan, didn't you say you and Lin Chuan came from the same Junior Soul Master Academy? You entered the same year. How could he be so? Daimubai's deep voice cut in. He and you were both work-study students, weren't you? Your innate soul power certainly wasn't full. Tang San's eyes were gloomy. He shook his head slowly. I'm just as confused. Lin Chuan and I entered at the same time. We were both work-study. He didn't have full innate soul power. So how could he be a Soul King at this age? And defeat one so easily? The most troubling part is that he didn't even have a visible soul ring. How are we supposed to judge his soul power level? That's the thing. His soul ring didn't show up during the match, Yu Xiaogang said flatly. During a battle, you can only estimate the fluctuations in someone's soul power. Without a soul ring to read, it's nearly impossible to be precise. Isn't it possible to hide a soul ring after activating a martial soul? Zhu Juqing asked coolly. Yu hesitated. He'd never seen anything like this before and didn't have an answer. Or maybe he didn't use a martial soul at all, Oscar ventured. Ma Hongjin's eyes widened. That'd be a foul, right? Couldn't we report it and get Tianshui disqualified? Before they could get carried away with that thought, Ning Rongrong interjected. Are you serious? There were a lot of people in the arena, titled Douluo among them. Lin Chuan beat those Wuhun people so thoroughly. If he'd really broken the rules, do you think he'd have been able to walk off the stage without being stopped? Her gaze swept the group. Besides, it is possible to use a martial soul without the soul ring appearing. My grandpa John can do it. Sword Douluo? The name drew attention. Yes, he can do it. A voice from behind answered, and Sword Douluo Chenqin and Ning Fengji were already walking toward them, stopping politely in front of the Shrek students. The students saluted one after another. Ning Fengji smiled gently and waved them off. Master, don't stand on ceremony. You're Rongrong's teacher. We heard what you were all talking about. Can your majesty, Sword Douluo, really do that? Ning Rongrong asked. Chenqin nodded. I can. It took me many years of practice to integrate the soul ring into my martial spirit. I'm the only one who ever went down that path in my time. I did not expect someone so young to be able to do the same." His words carried weight. What had earlier looked like a rule violation now seemed far less likely. Oscar looked incredulous. "No way. I can't believe someone our age could match Senior Sword Douluo's martial attainments." Tang San shook his head, thoughtful. Maybe Lin Chuan's martial skill level isn't the key. Maybe his martial spirit is special, able to hide the soul ring or integrate it differently. "That's possible," Yu Xiaogang agreed after a moment. "Many martial spirits have unusual abilities. Hiding a soul ring could be one of them." Chenshin didn't speak, but his silence confirmed what he'd already suggested. After all, it seemed unlikely that a teenager could truly match a veteran sword Douluo in decades of cultivation. Yu Xiaogang forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Senior Ning, Senior Zhan, can you sense Lin Chuan's soul power level at all?" Ning Fengji looked to Chenshin. The boy's classmates and teachers were all present, so Chenshin was candid. "That kid is odd," Chenshin said. "I can only estimate roughly, but his soul power is at least above level 55. He might even be stronger. It wouldn't surprise me if he's reached Soul King or even Soul Emperor level." "Impossible!" Tang San and Yu Xiaogang exclaimed together. Tang San couldn't accept being surpassed in such a short span. Yu felt his own soul master theories being shaken. Chenshin frowned lightly at the tone of disbelief. "Are you questioning me?" he asked. Yu Xiaogang snapped back to decorum. "Sorry, Senior Jian, we don't doubt your words. It's just a 15-year-old Soul King." He trailed off, too astonished for words. "Perhaps I can explain," Ning Fengji said with a smile. "Master, have you noticed the pills that have appeared on the market recently?" Yu raised an eyebrow. "You mean the pills sold by the Shui family?" "Yes," Ning Fengji nodded. "And observe the changes in the poison Douluo and her granddaughter Dugu Yan. Their martial spirit used to be the Jade Phosphorus Snake King. Now it's evolved into a dragon type. One person evolving might be one thing, but two at once is unusual." "What you're suggesting is," Yu prompted. Ning Fengji continued. "From what we've gathered, Dugu Bo has agreed to serve as a consultant for Tianshui College, and his martial spirit has evolved too. There's a possibility that Lin Chuan is connected to this. Perhaps he's capable of evolving a martial spirit. If Lin Chuan can evolve his martial spirit, then even if that process can't be easily replicated, there could be pills or methods that accelerate cultivation," she added thoughtfully. "If so, you could, in theory, manufacture something to boost training speed." That comment hit a nerve with Yu Xiaogang. If snakes could evolve into dragon types, maybe his own Luo Sunpao could too. With pills that accelerated cultivation, he might attain much greater power in a short time. The thought ignited all the hopes he'd carried for years. He almost couldn't contain the excitement. "Teacher," Tang San's quiet voice interrupted the surge in Yu's expression. Yu drew a deep breath and tamped down his eagerness. "What Sectmaster Ning said makes sense. Otherwise, it's impossible for all of Tianshui Academy's members to suddenly reach Soul King level. But even if we understand how Lin Chuan became so strong, it doesn't change the fact that we still might not be able to beat them," Ma Hongjun reminded them bluntly. "Two of Wuhun's main players are injured this afternoon, true, but Wuhun is still a formidable team. Our priority is the afternoon match. How do we beat Wuhun without burning out?" Tang San's eyes brightened. "It's not hopeless. Don't be ridiculous. He can even wound a titled Douluo. How are we supposed to win?" Ma Hongjun snapped. "Lin Chuan's power is terrifying, but every soul master has limits," Tang San said calmly. "If we can get close to him before he unleashes his full attack, force him into close combat, or make him leave the field early, then we have a chance." "Xiao San's right," Yu Xiaogang agreed. "Not every fighter is perfect at every aspect of combat. Exceptional cases like Tang San aside, most people have weaknesses. If their strategy could neutralize Lin Chuan's advantage, get inside his optimal range, Shrek might actually stand a chance." The thought of winning, which you had been on the verge of abandoning, began to return. He straightened. "Our immediate focus is the afternoon game. We must beat Wuhun to make the finals tomorrow. Everything else is meaningless if we don't get past them." "Prepare as if every match is life or death," Tang San added. "Even wounded, Wuhun is dangerous. We need a plan that destroys or exhausts them while keeping ourselves in good condition. Talk tactics while we have time. Yu Xiaogang's steady leadership and Tang San's calm reasoning pulled the team back from the brink. One by one, the Shrek members nodded, the spark of confidence returning as they began to discuss the strategy for the afternoon. Chapter 126, Spirit Hall's Response. Before the afternoon match, everyone from Shrek Academy stayed in Yu Xiaogang's room, even eating there. Flender and Liu Erlong posted themselves outside the door to keep anyone from approaching. The sun hung low over the Spirit Hall Plaza, and the second half of the finals, the battle for the last spot, was about to begin. Although Tianshui Academy had already secured a place in tomorrow's finals, they had come to watch the match. Bibi Dong arrived late. The moment she appeared, her gaze slid to Lin Chuan, paused for a beat. Then she moved forward and addressed the crowd, waving the scepter at her side. "Greetings, Your Holiness. All hail." "The morning's triple team battles gave everyone quite a surprise," she said, her voice carrying across the square. "It is a blessing for the world of soul masters to witness such talent. But personal strength is limited. You are still students, untried in the fires of true combat. After graduation, you will face large-scale wars where you cannot afford the luxury of isolated one-on-one fights. As representatives of the finest soul masters, you stand here for a reason. To select the best teams and to give deeper training, the Spirit Hall will temporarily change the rules. From now on, the team elimination will not be single matches. The finals will be decided by a 3-team free-for-all. The team that remains standing will be the champion of this elite competition." The announcement hit like a thunderclap. No one expected the rules to be changed on the spot, especially after an injury had occurred in Wuhun Academy. A ripple of outrage spread through the crowd. "This is blatant," members of Tianshui Academy muttered and scowled. They had been in a favorable position. The plan had been to let Wuhun and Shrek wear each other down, while Tianshui conserved strength and took the crown. Now that slim advantage had been ripped away. It was obvious to anyone with eyes that this change targeted Tianshui. In a free-for-all, they would be surrounded and pressured from both sides. Even a powerful fighter like Lin Chuan could be worn down by too many opponents. "Typical Spirit Hall tactics," Douluo snorted, disdain clear on his face. Lin Chuan only raised an eyebrow. He had suspected this would happen. "Winning the championship isn't going to be easy," he murmured. "Do the 3 teams have any objections?" Bibi Dong asked coldly, sweeping her gaze across them. Dai Mubai leaned toward Yu Xiaogang and whispered, "Bibi Dong, are you worried?" Yu Xiaogang met her eyes for a moment and then looked away. "Don't worry," he said to Dai. "If the Spirit Hall wants to change the rules, we can't stop them. Besides," he let the sentence trail. The implication was clear. This new rule actually helped Shrek as much as it harmed Tianshui. "Xiaochuan, we absolutely can't agree to this. This is clearly aimed at us." Shuyuer snapped, her voice cracking with anger. "Calm down. Let me speak," Lin Chuan said, patting her hand. He stood and stepped forward. "Your Holiness, I formally object. If the rules had been changed before the morning matches started, that would have been one thing. But now, our Tianshui team has already qualified under the original rules. It's unfair to change them at this stage." "This is a decision of the organizing committee," Bibi Dong replied coolly, her eyes fixed on him. "It will not be overturned for any academy. It's obviously targeted at Tianshui." Lin Chuan shot back, meeting her without a hint of deference. Bibi Dong's eyes narrowed. "Then what do you want?" she asked. "I want compensation," Lin Chuan answered plainly. "This rule change damages Tianshui's interests. If the Spirit Hall feels Wuhun is disadvantaged and must change the format, then you should compensate those teams harmed by that decision. Otherwise, if you think it's impossible, then simply award the championship to Wuhun outright." "Presumptuous," someone shouted. The crowd bristled at Lin Chuan's audacity. Douluo laughed out loud, delighted. "If you want special treatment, boy, why not demand that the Spirit Hall hand the trophy to you directly?" At that, 2 powerful presences rose, Ju Douluo Yueguan and Ghost Douluo Guimei, both titled Douluos. Soul power pulsed off them, heavy enough to make lesser spirits shudder. Douluo didn't back down. He radiated fighting intent and stood firmly next to Lin Chuan. The statement was clear. "Sit down, Elder Ju, Elder Gui. Bibi Dong's voice cut through the tension, and the two titled Douluos suppressed their hostility and took their seats as if nothing had happened. Dugubo snorted, but lowered his soul power, remaining planted beside Lin Chuan. Bibi Dong looked at the two of them with a new calculation. She had no fear of Dugubo's raw combat strength. Her concern was the poison mastery he'd shown and the fact his martial soul had recently evolved. Now was not the time for a direct confrontation. She let the hostile light in her eyes soften. "Very well. What compensation do you demand?" The other cardinals, about to protest, were silenced by Guimet's cold stare. "The Pope is fair," Guimet murmured, and all fell quiet. Lin Chuan opted for a practical approach. He reached into his storage and pulled out a pen and paper. He wrote quickly, then slid the paper forward. Guimet, who could move like a shadow, merged into a black silhouette and darted to take the note from Lin Chuan, unnerving in her silence. Dugubo watched every move. Guimet handed the paper to Bibi Dong. Bibi Dong read it, and her brows tightened. "Impossible. This is excessive," she said, more to herself than to anyone else. "At least 80%, Lin Chuan said plainly. "That's our bottom line. Otherwise, give the championship to Wu Hun." Bibi Dong's eyes flashed. "At most 60%, she countered after a moment, weighing the political cost. "Deal." Lin Chuan accepted instantly, smiling as if the negotiation had been a foregone victory. The cardinals exchanged glances. Bibi Dong's expression for a moment showed the sharp realization that she had been outplayed. Still, the agreement had been made. "Does Shrek Academy have any objections?" Bibi Dong asked. Yu Xiaogang rose and shook his head. "No objections." "Very well. Since all three teams accept, the final will be a three-team melee. The last academy with a surviving player will be declared the champion." Bibi Dong announced, final and cold. "Wait," Lin Chuan said, breaking the moment again. "When will the compensation be paid?" "After the match," she replied at once. "That won't do," Lin Chuan said. "What if the Spirit Hall changes its mind afterward? I request the compensation be transferred to us now, before the final." Bibi Dong's annoyance flared. She had already argued with him enough. Then she gave a small, calculating smile. "Very well, but the amount you requested is large. The Spirit Hall will need time to arrange the funds. The final will be held in 3 days, and the compensation will be transferred to you before the match begins. Is that acceptable?" Lin Chuan could not help but smile at the implication. 3 days would allow Spirit Hall healers and Wu Hun's own forces time to repair their injured fighters, exactly what the Spirit Hall needed to nullify Tianshui's current advantage. Still, he was not intimidated. "Then we accept the Pope's arrangement," Lin Chuan said, calm and confident. Bibi Dong stared at him, eyes questioning. Did he really not care about facing a full-strength siege of 2 great academies? Lin Chuan only smiled. No matter what they restored in 3 days, he had his plans. Chapter 127, The Final Battle, Papal Palace. Bibi Dong, having finished her duties, walked briskly to the chamber where Huliana lay recovering. "Report," she said as she entered. Huliana struggled up from the bed and tried to salute, but Bibi Dong waved her away. "You were hurt. Don't salute, just rest." She eased herself onto the edge of the bed and glanced toward the maid. "How is Nana?" "Back in the Pope's care, Your Holiness," the maid replied. "A bishop has already treated His Highness the Saint. Physically, he's basically fine, but he suffered mental trauma and is still weak." Bibi Dong's face tightened. "Does that little one still have a way to attack the mind?" Hulina lowered her head, suddenly pale. "I'm sorry, teacher. I failed you. You know you're not enough, so work harder." Bibi Dong's tone was gentle but unsparing. "I went against everyone and put those 3 soul bones up as rewards. If you don't win, you can imagine the consequences." At the mention of the 3 soul bones, Huliana went even paler. Bibi Dong had intended to hand them directly to the Golden Generation members, but the Elder Hall objected. So she compromised and made them the tournament prize, on the condition that Wu Hun Academy actually wins. If they lost, not only would those treasures go to others, but Wu Hun Palace's prestige among the top echelons would suffer. Huliana's failure would mean punishment regardless of her saint title. "You'll be sent to Death Canyon," the implication hung in the air. "Teacher, I won't let you down. I will win the championship," Huliana said, voice resolute. Bibi Dong nodded, but the strain in her face didn't ease. She had done everything in her power, even temporarily altering the tournament rules for Wuhan's benefit. With Tianshui Academy unexpectedly strong, and with Shrek almost certain to join the besieging, the odds were stacked. She lifted her hand, and the ring on her finger flashed. When she opened her palm, a small skull, one of the soul bones, lay there, faintly shimmering. "Absorb this," she said softly. "It will increase your chances." Hulina's expression changed. "Teacher, that's one of the reward soul bones. It's too precious." Bibi Dong shook her head. "What's precious if it can't be used? If it only sits on a tray, it's no different from scrap. This spirit-condensed wisdom skull suits you. Consider it an early reward." Hulina hesitated. Bibi Dong saw her worry and, with a small smile, pulled the girl into an embrace. "Don't be afraid. I still have one more skull. If things go wrong, you can use it later. No one knows the true power of these spirit skulls yet. Using one now won't hurt us." Hulina looked up, eyes burning with determination. "Teacher, I want to absorb another skull. I want to win those 3 soul bones myself." Bibi Dong studied her for a long moment, then gave a small nod. "If that's how you insist, then I'll grant it." She produced a second white skull from the ring and placed it in Hulina's hands. The girl accepted it solemnly, her gratitude plain. "Do your best," Bibi Dong said. "I'll be watching." After a brief visit, she returned to the meeting hall. She sat with one hand to her forehead, the other tapping the armrest in an anxious rhythm. Before her, Ju Douluo Yueguan and Ghost Douluo Guimei stood respectfully among her confidants. Bibi Dong didn't hide anything. "You're worried about the match in 3 days?" one of them asked. "Yes," she admitted. No one expected Tianshui Academy to be this strong. Lin Chuan reached Soul Emperor at 15. Even if some of his soul power is restricted by the godly inheritance, his spirit force is still enormous. At least level 60 perception when he acts, probably more. If Nana and the others team up with Shrek, they may not be enough. Lin Chuan is already a Soul Emperor. Yuguan and Guimei exchanged astonished looks. The new generation was frighteningly talented. "Let us go kill him," one of them urged. "I don't know why his soul skills hit so hard, but his soul power level is still relatively low. I'm 80% sure we could take him out in one strike." Bibi Dong's face cooled. "Sounds nice in theory, but do you remember what happened when you and the demon bear intercepted them before? Both sides left intact, but the demon bear was severely injured." Her eyes were stern. No one argued further. Bibi Dong added, "We can't operate openly in Wuhan City. It would damage Wuhan Palace's standing among soul masters. And Poison Douluo is stronger now. If he goes berserk in the city, the damage would be catastrophic. We'll discuss other measures after the match." "Understood, Your Holiness the Pope," they replied. "Also," Bibi Dong said, waving a hand, "prepare the items Tianshui Academy has requested." "As you command." Ju Douluo and Ghost Douluo left, and Bibi Dong was left alone in Nuoda's council hall, the weight of the coming contest heavy on her shoulders. 3 days passed in silence. The much-anticipated final was about to begin. This year's elite tournament rules had been temporarily altered. The final would be a 3-way melee, and the mainland watched with bated breath. At the judging table, Shui Qinghe, Ning Fengji, and Sword Douluo Chenxin took their places early, each eager to see how the battle would unfold. Outside the papal palace, the 3 teams assembled in grim array. All eyes, however, turned first to Tianshui Academy. Everyone had a wary respect, and for some, fear. The Wuhan Academy team stood to one side, their presence exuding a cold, killing intent that felt like a blade approaching Tianshui. For a moment, many felt the pressure. Lin Chuan barely moved. He smiled softly, and simply standing there was enough to blunt that murderous aura. Hulina glared at him with an almost cannibalistic intensity, but Lin Chuan calmly shifted his gaze away. A shaft of sunlight fell across the courtyard and caught the 3 soul bones on a red brocade plate before the ring, the championship prize. They glowed faintly, waiting for the last laugh of whoever emerged victorious. Suddenly, Ghost Douluo materialized before Tianshui's formation and lunged at Lin Chuan with full force. Dugubo snorted coldly and caught the attack in one hand, looking at the ghost with disdain. The ghost, seeing it wasn't getting anywhere, dissolved into shadow and returned to the papal doors. Dugubo then tossed a small spatial ring to Lin Chuan. Lin Chuan examined it briefly. The ring's internal space wasn't vast, but it contained exactly what he had requested before, a compact training pavilion. He bowed. "Thank you, Your Holiness the Pope, for your generous gift. I take back my earlier words. Wuhun Palace is fair." Bibi Dong gave a faint glance and tapped her scepter. A cardinal at the center of the ring announced, "The finals of the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Elite Competition will begin in 15 minutes. Contestants, prepare." The three teams stepped onto the ring and took their positions. Wuhun Academy and Shrek Academy instinctively closed ranks around Tianshui Academy. It was plainly clear Tianshui would be the first target. On Tianshui's side, Ye Lingling stepped onto the platform for the first time, flanked by Du Guyan, Shui Binger, Shui Wu, Shui Yuer, and Yu Hairo. The girls could all sense the other team's hostile intent. "Brother Chuan, they're obviously going to besiege us. Do we need a plan?" Shui Binger asked coldly, anger sharp in her voice despite her composure. Lin Chuan chuckled and shook his head. "No need for a complicated plan. There are three things the other teams will focus on: Hu Liena and Shi Yue's martial soul fusion techniques, Dai Mubai and Juju King possibly using a fusion, and Shrek Academy's 7-in-1 fusion technique that they've used before. Keep an eye on those." He outlined his assignment simply. "We'll handle Shrek's Ning Rong Rong and Oscar first. Tang San and the Golden Generation will be my responsibility. Everyone else follows your lead." "No problem, Xiao Chuan. Leave it to us," Shui Yuer said, punching her palm with confidence. Having come this far, the girls were brimming with fierce assurance. Even if two academies attacked them together, they were ready. If they won by overcoming those combined forces, the victory would be all the sweeter. Chapter 128. Who Told You I'm Afraid of Close Combat? The atmosphere at Tianshui Academy had been relaxed. Here, at the arena, both Wuhun Academy and Shrek Academy were on edge. Everyone knew this confrontation would be brutal. Without warning, Tang San stepped out of his team and walked straight toward Wuhun Academy. The sudden move drew every eye in the hall. No one hid their surprise. "Tang San, what are you doing?" Yan called immediately, wary. "I'm here to propose cooperation." Tang San didn't flinch. "Lin Chuan of Tianshui is extremely strong, and his martial spirit is powerful. If we don't coordinate, we'll be taken down one by one." His words made the Wuhun representatives fall into thought. Hulina lifted her head slowly. "How do you propose we cooperate?" "It's simple," Tang San said. "Let's work together to take out Tianshui and eliminate Lin Chuan first." Hulina's mouth tightened. "That's it?" "No." Tang San shook his head. "Tianshui isn't just Lin Chuan. Shui Binger and their martial spirit fusion are dangerous too. You'll need to use your charm spirit skills to limit Shui Binger's performance." "And who takes Lin Chuan?" Huliena's tone was cool, but she listened. Tang San breathed out and explained the core of his plan. "Lin Chuan is powerful, but he has a fatal weakness. He needs to keep his distance. If we can close in quickly and overwhelm him at close range, we can severely restrict his movements. If we eliminate Lin Chuan," Tang San continued, "Tianshui will be broken. Then the final outcome depends on us together, Shrek and Wuhun." Huliena, Yan, and Shiyu exchanged looks. Facing Tianshui alone would be difficult. An alliance made sense. "Fine," Huliena said, wary but pragmatic. "But don't even think about betraying us. If you stab us in the back," Tang San raised a hand, "we all want the championship. Right now, our priority is defeating Lin Chuan and Tianshui. For now, we're allies until that goal is reached." Huliena responded in a voice that didn't fully commit. It had better be that way. Tang San knew trust would be limited. He had no illusions. "Good. I'll leave the details to you," he said, and rejoined his teammates. 15 minutes passed. Then the ring announcer's voice cut through the tension. "Preparation time is over. The Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Elite Competition Final has officially begun. All contestants, release your martial spirits. Let's go win the championship," Lin Chuan said with a glance at the girls and a faint smile. At once, everyone released their spirits. Two cold, murderous auras, sharp as blades, streaked toward Lin Chuan. The air crackled like gunpowder. "Game start," the referee announced, then quickly stepped back to clear the field. Several titled Douluo watched intently, eyes fixed on the match. "Do it," came the command. Wuhun Academy and Shrek moved as one. Hulina stepped forward. A soft red glow emanated from her. Her eyes flickered. The Wuhun spirit blessing enhanced her beauty into a weapon. She became irresistibly alluring. Everyone from Tianshui felt that pull. "Don't look at her. Focus on your own moves," Sri Binger said coldly. The others turned their faces away. "Do you think you can win just by ignoring me?" Hu Liena's voice dropped into a sultry laugh. Her words and presence began to distract Tianshui, and they were caught off guard. "Good idea. Too bad we won't let you succeed so easily," Tang San snapped. He drew his bow and aimed straight for Hu Liena, but then, in the next instant, countless strands of blue-silver grass shot up from the ground and snared someone's legs, wrapping and rising like living ropes. Blue-silver grass, first spirit skill. Tang San had launched the attack, trying to lock down Lin Chuan as his allies moved in. "Don't let him interfere. Hell magma rush." Yan, who had long been wary of Lin Chuan, condensed magma energy and hurled it toward Lin Chuan to prevent interference. Shiyo didn't stand idle. She threw a moonblade at Lin Chuan. Tang San barked the order, sharp and concise. "Rongrong, now!" Ning Rongrong chanted and lifted the 7 treasures glazed pagoda. 2 beams of colored light fell, one on Tang San and one on Dai Mubai, boosting their auras. Dai's purple soul ring flared, and he unleashed the 4th spirit skill, White Tiger Meteor Shower. A barrage of dazzling meteors pelted the Tianshui side. The timing was perfect. "Rongrong," Tang San called. "Speed, now!" Another light hit Tang San. He stomped and blurred into multiple afterimages, as though a series of Tang Sans rushed Lin Chuan from all directions. He closed the distance instantly. Yan and Sheiyue mirrored the move, closing as well. "So that's your plan," Lin Chuan observed coolly. "You think because my Wuhun spirit uses a bow, I can only fight at range? You've attacked my teammates to prevent interference. Clever. If you were facing ordinary opponents, you might have succeeded." Boom. Meteors crashed. Smoke and dust immediately swirled, shrouding the arena and concealing Tianshui's position. Blue Silver Entangle, first spirit skill. Tang San's grass coiled toward Lin Chuan like a serpent, wrapping him in a tight cage before he could react. Then Hell Magma and the Moonblade struck in succession. The blue-silver cage shattered with a thunderous crack, and a powerful impact sent a figure flying out, slamming him hard into the ground. Smoke and dust rolled and spattered, obscuring the scene. "Success!" Oscar grinned. "Even if he's a Soul Emperor, with that combo." "Is that all?" A cold voice sliced through the dust. Dark clouds scudded across the overhead lights, and a sudden gust dispersed the smoke. The Tianshui figures emerged, completely unharmed. Their clothes weren't even singed. The expression of everyone from Wuhun and Shrek stiffened. How could they be unscathed after such a concentrated assault? Tang San's gaze snapped to Ye Lingling. She held a crabapple blossom. Behind her 5 soul rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple, 1 black, flashed in sequence. The crabapple blossom shone, and light cascaded onto her teammates. 9-heart begonia? Soul King level? Tang San realized. That was why their first strike had failed to injure them seriously. Ye Lingling had used her life spirit Tang Martial Soul's recovery effects and strong abnormal resistance. It could both heal and dramatically boost resistance. Hu Liena's face paled. "Impossible. Even with 9-heart begonia, you shouldn't have broken free of my soul skills so quickly. You must have reacted and retreated during our attack." Ye Lingling looked calm and didn't bother to explain. As Hu Liena suspected, breaking free from her soul control wasn't easy, especially with Hu Liena's skills amplified by her skull power. But Life Spirit Tang's rapid recovery and abnormal resistance allowed Ye Lingling to respond at the last moment. She activated Life Spirit Tang to bolster her teammates' defenses and apply healing. That was why the first move had failed. "Don't panic. He's only been entangled by my blue-silver grass and is poisoned. Keep pressing," Tang San ordered, forcing himself to remain composed. "Yan," Sheiyue called low. She and Yan surged with the Moonblade and other attacks toward Lin Chuan. The 3 of them converged on him. "Yanzi, leave the rest to you," Lin Chuan said softly, then tried to dodge with a slight step. 4th spirit skill, Fallen Fox Nightmare, Lin Chuan countered. At the same time, Hu Liena didn't hold back. She activated a soul domain technique. A pale pink light formed a mental shield and attacked the minds of Tianshui's fighters. Domain spirit skills could manipulate emotions and perceptions of anyone beneath the user's level. Those trapped could be mentally tormented. Juliana's hair flared from black to fiery red, her eyes aglow with pink light. Lin Chuan felt his mind wobble under the pressure. Now! Tang San's right hand flashed black as the clear sky hammer formed. He slammed it toward Lin Chuan with everything he had. Third spirit skill, Hellfire. Yan and Shiyuo seized the opening. One unleashed his personal spirit skill, flames rising and approaching from one side. Shiyue spun her twin moon blades at terrifying speed until they blurred into a white full moon of steel, their edges lethally sharp. The three intended to finish Lin Chuan with this pincer strike. Finish him! Yan roared, trying to put all his emotions into the blow. Lin Chuan didn't flinch, he only smiled lightly. I'm impressed by your performance, but who told you I'm afraid of close combat? At that, Lin Chuan lifted his head. His Luoxia bow glowed, transforming into a beam of light that then split into two, one long, one short. Before anyone could react, a sharp sound rang through the arena. Chapter 130. The end? No, it's just the beginning. After the cardinal finished speaking, Ning Fengji rose. Go, he said, and with a raised hand, the 7 treasure-glazed pagoda appeared silently. Its 6th-tier healing light washed over everyone in Shrek Academy, bathing them in a soft, peculiar radiance. In an instant, the wounds of several fighters closed at a terrifying speed. The 7 treasure-glazed pagoda might not equal Jushin Haitang in restorative power, but it was no weakling. The Shrek members were soon stabilized, their faces flushing back to health. Only Tang San remained pale. Though his external wounds and internal injuries were healing, the backlash from the clear sky hammer had not subsided. Ning Fengji stopped the pagoda's light and shook his head slowly. I'm sorry, Master. Tang San's martial spirit has rebounded. There's nothing I can do for it. He'll have to rely on himself. Yu Xiaogong's expression tightened, but he forced a grateful smile. Thank you, sect leader Ning. Ning Fengji returned a small smile. It was nothing. With the 7 members from the Spirit Hall helped down, only the other 2 teams remained on the square. While both sides received treatment, Lin Chuan returned to Tianshui Academy with everyone in high spirits. He turned to Ye Lingling with a gentle smile. Lingling, how did it go? Ye Lingling nodded and smiled sweetly. Lin Chuan's grin broadened and he stretched lazily. So it worked. All your hard work paid off. The tournament's announcement followed. Everyone stood as Bibi Dong, the Spirit Hall Pope, declared in a composed voice, the champion of this year's Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Elite Competition is Tianshu Academy. Congratulations to the young genius Soul Masters. Those words settled everything. Except for Lin Chuan, every eye drifted toward the brocade tray holding 3 spirit bones. Representatives from Tianshui Academy, please step forward to receive the championship prize. All the girls looked to Lin Chuan simultaneously. Shui Binger spoke first. Brother Chuan, we couldn't have won without you. You should receive the award. Right, Xiao Chuan. Go claim your honor, Du Guyan said, touching Lin Chuan's arm from behind with a grin and a wink. All right. Lin Chuan smiled and accepted without protest. Boy Lin, shall I accompany you? Dugu Bo asked suddenly. Lin Chuan saw what he meant and nodded. Then, Senior Dugu, I'll trouble you. An elder and a youth walked together toward the Pope's palace. 5 steps away from Bibi Dong, Lin Chuan halted. The Pope's astonishing beauty radiated fully, noble, composed, and timeless. Though not young, she carried the charm of mature grace, topped with a presence that made even Lin Chuan feel his mind go slack for a moment. As he stared, Bibi Dong met his gaze, a strange light in her beautiful eyes. Lin Chuan, she said, smiling, you are better than I expected. You've brought everyone a surprise. Would you be willing to join the Spirit Hall and serve under me? So direct. Ning Fengji, standing to the side, frowned. If Lin Chuan accepted, the Spirit Hall would surely gain another titled Douluo in the future, an extraordinary one at that. That could spell trouble for the Tiando Empire and the Qibao Glazed sect. Before Ning could say anything, Shui Qinghe stepped out of the judge's area and spoke in a deep voice. Your Holiness, you have no right to poach people from my Tiando Empire in front of me. The Do Empire takes this seriously. Bibi Dong glanced at Shui Qinghe, cool in reply. Yet I recall Tianshui Academy has not sworn itself to the Tiando Empire. Can you truly forbid them from pursuing better prospects? Shui Qinghe did not back down. What the Spirit Hall offers, the Tiando Empire can match. for the honor of Brother Lin and Tianshui Academy. Titles or fiefs, whatever it takes, the Tiando Empire can provide. On the surface, it looked like a contest between the Spirit Hall and the Tiando Empire to recruit talent, but Lin Chuan knew there was more to it. A private struggle within the Spirit Hall. Mother and daughter had come from the same hall, yet their relationship was fraught. One wanted to reclaim the Pope's seat. The other wanted to obliterate the angel lineage and perhaps the continent. Neither wanted to see the other gain a powerful ally. In that case, let Lin Chuan choose, Bibi Dong said, turning her attention back to him. Lin Chuan bowed slightly, calm. Thank you for the honor, Your Holiness, but I am still a student of Tianshui Academy. For now, I have no plans to join any other force. I will consider it after I graduate. Both Bibi Dong and Shui Qinghe's expressions flickered for a moment, but they quickly smoothed. Bibi Dong wore a hint of regret. I will not force you then. I wish you greater success. Strive to join the Douluo Palace soon. The doors of the Spirit Hall will always be open to you. She handed over the brocade tray containing the 3 spirit bones. Thank you, Your Holiness. I will consider it carefully. When Lin Chuan reached out to take the prize, he felt the stares around him, undisguised greed and malice. Dugubo snorted and relaxed his imposing aura slightly. Most kept their restraint, but Chrysanthemum Douluo Yuguan and Ghost Douluo Guime still had hunger in their eyes. Humph, Lin Chuan heard and met Dugubo's cold gaze. He put the 3 spirit bones into his spirit storage and returned to the team's center beside Dugubo. Facing those burning looks, Lin Chuan gave a helpless shrug. Don't stare. We'll discuss how to divide the bones back at the academy. For now, stay with Senior Dugu. He'll take you away as soon as possible. Got it, Xiao Chuan. Be careful, the girls called. Though they did not know his plan, they nodded dutifully. I'll be fine, Lin Chuan replied with a small smile, attempting to give them confidence. The event's over. Let's go. Yu Xiaogang helped Tang San up and began gathering everyone to leave when a cold voice halted them. Wait. Bibi Dong did not leave. Chrysanthemum Douluo Yueguan and Ghost Douluo Guime stood behind her, flanked by 2 other figures who stepped out of the Pope's hall, a man and a woman who were clearly titled Douluo as well. Seeing this, Yu Xiaogang's heart clenched. Your Holiness, what are you doing? Bibi Dong ignored him. Raising the scepter in her hand, she spoke in icy calm. The competition is finished. These matters are now private. 4 elders, detain the descendants who were involved in the murder of the previous pope. Also, invite Lin Chuan to remain in Wuhun City for a few days. The rest may leave. She had chosen to turn on them then and there. Cardinal guards closed in to secure the scene. Yu Xiaogang's eyes went wide. He hadn't expected Bibi Dong to act, and now there was no time to bemoan it. I will never let you take Xiaosan. Liu Erlong and Flanders stepped forward and stood beside Yu Xiaogang, their bodies faintly shining with golden light. Bibi Dong's eyes hardened when she saw Liu Erlong at Yu Xiaogang's side, and her voice turned deadly cold. Go ahead. Anyone who dares to interfere will be killed. Then fight! Dugubo roared, stepping protectively in front of everyone from Tianshui Academy. The 4 titled Douluo behind Bibi Dong moved instantly. Yueguan and Guime surged toward Tang San, while the other 2 charged at Lin Chuan. Dean, take the others and get out of here. Lin Chuan snapped. I know, Dugubo replied grimly. Xiao Chuan, be careful. We'll wait for you to return. Shui Lanshan, understanding the situation, nodded and turned to the team. The black-robed man among them swallowed a spirit pill. His breath leaped, his soul ring flashed, and a black and purple mirror solidified into being. Without a word, the others rushed through the mirror. Want to run? Someone sneered. A cold, thunderous snort cut through the air. Golden light swelled from behind Bibi Dong as 9 spirit rings of different colors rolled out, unleashing a crushing pressure that slammed into Tianshui Academy. This won't do, Lin Chuan said, calmly letting a thread of water shimmer over him. Blue light spilled outward, directly countering Bibi Dong's onslaught. This is a domain? Bibi Dong's eyes widened in shock. She hadn't expected Lin Chuan to have concealed such a trump card, one that could check her spirit pressure. She had misjudged him. This young man might rival Tang San, who possessed twin martial spirits. Your opponent is me, Dugubo roared. The green phosphorus earth dragon erupted around him. taking his body and intercepting the two titled Douluo who were throwing themselves at him. With his martial spirit in full force and Lin Chuan using his water technique to suppress the spirit hall's pressure, Douluo managed to hold his own against the two. On the other flank, however, the three golden-tinged defenders found themselves in trouble facing Yuoguan and Guimei. The two elite Douluo attacked without reserve, truly no match to be taken lightly. "Humph. A chrysanthemum and a little ghost? You dare attack my son? Get lost," came a low, commanding voice from afar. It was not loud, but its tone bore absolute dominion. Chrysanthemum Douluo Yuoguan and Ghost Douluo Guimei visibly trembled and paled, as if some terrible memory surged to the surface. Even Bibi Dong's face changed. She halted her attack and fell into a wary stillness. There was a sudden blast of force, and a black shadow hurtled into Yuoguan and Guimei, striking them so hard they were driven backward despite their combined resistance. Above the Shrek group, a hulking figure holding a sledgehammer appeared out of thin air. "Tang Hao," Bibi Dong shouted, her eyes full of hatred, murderous intent rising around her like a storm. "The person I've been waiting for has finally come." Lin Chuan lowered his gaze a fraction, amusement dancing in his eyes as he struggled not to laugh out loud. Chapter 131, Hao Tian's Broken Arm. The moment Tang Hao appeared, everyone from Wuhan Palace at the scene immediately grew cautious. The four titled Douluo beside Bibi Dong fell back to shelter her, soul power flaring as their faces went stern. "Heh, Bibi Dong, want to avenge your teacher? Want to take me?" Tang Hao descended slowly from the air, standing tall, a cold light flashing in his eyes. "Then try." Bibi Dong's expression hardened. She flicked the scepter in her hand and let out a piercing cry. From the Pope's palace, several auras surged forward to meet him. "So what if you call for reinforcements? Today won't be easy for anyone." Tang Hao smiled faintly, planting the clear sky hammer into the ground. One by one, 9 soul rings rose around him, 2 yellow, 2 purple, 4 black, and 1 red. Astonishingly, his soul ring combination matched Bibi Dong's exactly. With every appearing ring, his aura steepened, leaving most of the onlookers breathless. "Xiao-san, watch closely. This is the true Hao Qian incarnation," someone shouted. Boom! The 7th ring flared, and the clear sky hammer in Tang Hao's hands swelled monstrously. Intense black light surged. In an instant, the hammer towered over 30 feet high like a small mountain. "Hit me!" When the massive sledgehammer fell, the air itself warped under the force. A titanic pressure swept out in all directions. Only the titled Douluo could stand against it. The other soul masters in the square were pinned down, unable to move. A hill-sized hammer drove down. "You dare!" Bibi Dong snapped, fury displacing her composure. 8 titled Douluo rushed at once to intercept the falling black hammer. Boom! Explosions cracked through the sky. Invisible shockwaves radiated outward, and the square filled with smoke and debris. Most of the soul masters were blown off their feet, spat blood from their mouths and noses, and collapsed unconscious. "What terrifying power, worthy of the clear sky hammer," someone murmured. Lin Chuan planted his feet and held his ground against the wind, though his clothing whipped violently. The titled Douluo protecting Wuhan Palace were driven back. Some of those with slightly lower soul power were cut and bleeding, horror in their eyes. Against a united front they could manage, but alone, a single blow would kill them. Tang Hao didn't feel well either. He coughed up a mouthful of blood and laughed hoarsely into the air. "Wuhan Palace is nothing. Bibi Dong, wash your neck and wait. One day I'll settle every debt you owe me." He intended to leave on that note. But out of the corner of his eye, he noticed Lin Chuan, and the memory of his son's suffering flared inside him. A fierce look crossed his face. In full view of everyone, the clear sky hammer struck again, this time aimed toward Lin Chuan. Tang Hao's intent was clear. "You're shameless!" Dugubo's face went livid. He snorted, and in an instant his body was wrapped in black light. The 8th soul skill, time freezing. Even someone as powerful as Hao Tian Douluo found himself halted, trapped briefly by the skill's arresting power. Lin Chuan did not miss the chance. He drew the Luoxia bow to full, and a 3-colored arrow, water and fire intertwined, appeared, the tip crackling with light. Water and fire pierced the heavens. The arrow shot out and seemed to cleave space itself. "What?" Tang Hao's expression snapped to horror. He had no time to think. Instinctively he shouted, "Explode the rings!" The first 6 soul rings shattered at his command, a massive surge of soul power erupting forth. The burst broke through Dugubo's temporal seal. "Get out of the way!" Tang Hao lunged. The 3-colored arrow was already upon him. Black and blood-red energy wrapped his body as he threw himself into the impact. Boom! The arrow struck the clear sky hammer with a thunderous collision. Shock and disbelief spread across the faces of the titled Douluo watching. Even when several of them had combined their forces, they had been held in check by Tang Hao, but now a single soul emperor had forced him to expend himself. Were Lin Chuan's attacks just too strong, or had their own strength been too shallow all along? Gulp. The 2 titled Douluo who had earlier targeted Lin Chuan swallowed hard, a chill running through them. If Lin Chuan had acted sooner against them, they might already be dead. 2 fields. Bibi Dong's eyes narrowed. The energy Lin Chuan wielded felt different from anything she controlled, and stronger. Shock filled the Pope's mind. Damn it, what a monster this kid is! At the heart of the storm, Tang Hao's face clouded. How could a mere soul emperor master such devastating techniques? If he hadn't been able to shatter the rings in time, he would have been done for. Still, the violent release and the collision had aggravated old injuries. Pain stabbed through him. If this went on, he wouldn't hold out long. Lin Chuan sneered. "You barely blocked 1 arrow. Let's see if you can block the second." He drew again. This time bolts of thunder danced along the bowstring. Water and fire braided together into an even fiercer arrow. Water and fire shake the sky. White light screamed past, faster and sharper than before. Tang Hao felt death approach. He could no longer think of his old wounds. One of the 3 remaining soul rings flew off under the force. His aura surged. "Big Sumeru hammer, break!" he roared. The hammer's shadow swelled, hot and distorting the space around it. But Tang Hao had still misjudged the power of the combined water and fire technique. The soul skill from the 10,000-year dark gold fear claw bear that Lin Chuan had fused with his own was no weaker than an ordinary 100,000-year soul ring. Even with Hao Qian Sect's secret arts, Tang Hao could not fully dispel it. The second 3-colored arrow struck true. Thunder cracked as it pierced Tang Hao's killing domain and slammed into his shoulder. Boom. Blood spattered. Tang Hao became a black silhouette and collapsed. "Let's go." A gust of wind seized Tang San. Before he could register anything, he was swept away and carried outside the Pope's palace. "Dad, your arm!" Tang San's voice broke. Tears filled his eyes. He was grief-stricken, watching his father's condition. Tang Hao's right arm was gone, and his breath came in ragged gasps. "I'm fine. Get out of here." Tang Hao shook his head, swallowing the blood in his mouth. The 8th soul ring shattered completely, turning into a dark shadow that streaked away from Wuhan City. He and Tang San fled. Lin Chuan exhaled, clearly astonished. His attacks had been brutal, but to have them evaded at the last moment and to force such a cost surprised him nonetheless. He reached out. The soul bone from Tang Hao's severed arm fell into his palm. "Your Holiness, do you still intend to hold me?" he asked coldly. Bibi Dong looked at Lin Chuan, eyes flickering. She couldn't read his bottom line, and she was shaken by the raw power she had just witnessed. She didn't dare act rashly. Seeing Bibi Dong hesitate, Lin Chuan had no desire to linger. "Senior Dugu, let's go." The 2 vanished like streaks of light, pursuing the direction Tang Hao had fled. "Should we chase them?" one of the 7 standing behind Bibi Dong asked. Tang Hao had had an arm cut off, a loss of a soul bone. His spirit power would undoubtedly regress sharply. Now seemed the perfect moment to finish him. Tang Hao was arrogant. Now's the time to beat a dog when it's down. It's about the dignity of the spirit hall. Ghost Douluo Guimei couldn't help but prod, driven partly by personal grudge. Bibi Dong snapped. "Silence! Who are you to teach me?" "I dare not, Your Holiness," Guimei stammered, sweating as he dropped to one knee. The others were silent. Even Judolo Yuguan, who had long been Guimei's ally, kept his head down. Bibi Dong glared at him. "Humph." She glanced at the Shrek group, Yu Xiaogong among them. He returned her look without warmth, only resentment. Her heart throbbed. In the end, she swallowed her anger. "Let them leave Wuhan City at once." With that, she turned and walked back to the Pope's palace, lips curled in a cold sneer. For now, she would tolerate it and let everyone underestimate Wuhan Palace. That result pleased her most. She would settle the scores after the gods' test. Thus, the fierce clash ended as quietly as it had begun. No one at the scene ever expected to witness a titled Douluo-level battle inside Wuhan City, and no one would forget the day's events. Outside Wuhan City, everyone from Tianshui College had already left the Pope's palace through the reflection mirror. Under Shui Lanchin's protection, they hurried away from Wuhan City. Lin Chuan and Du Gubo pursued quickly, slipping out without difficulty. "Lin boy, do we truly want to keep chasing?" Du Gubo asked, his voice deep. He was surprised at how fast Lin Chuan had been. Lin Chuan nodded. With Tang Hao missing an arm, his spirit power will drop dramatically. This is the best chance to kill him. If we miss it now, it'll be much harder later. All right, then I'll go all out with you. Du Gubo replied. The idea of hunting a Haotian Douluo was intoxicating. Lin Chuan sensed Tang Hao's escape direction and pushed off. His speed increased noticeably. Du Gubo, following, gritted his teeth at the sudden acceleration. This little monster, he clearly has a weapon spirit and such a sturdy body. What an anomaly, he muttered, both amazed and frustrated. Complaints aside, he did not lag. He immediately summoned his spirit. After all, he was a titled Douluo too. If he couldn't even keep up with a Soul Emperor, he'd be ashamed. Fortunately, his spirit, the green phosphorus earth dragon, excelled at long pursuits. As long as it remained grounded, its soul power could recover quickly, so Du Bo had little fear of being left behind. Chapter 132. Chase arrows screamed through the air, closing in from behind. Tang Hao frowned, his expression unusually dark. He swung the clear sky hammer, scattering the volley, but he didn't dare to slow. They had been pursued for 2.5 days without respite. Tang San, clutched in his father's hand, scowled with fury. Damn, Lin Chuan, you not only hurt Dad so badly, but you're still chasing us now. If you think I'll let you live, no way. I'll never spare you. Train hard, and you'll catch him one day, Tang Hao murmured, though he coughed again, and a line of blood slipped from the corner of his mouth. Seeing his father's condition made Tang San's anger flicker into fear. Dad, are you okay? I'll hold on, Tang Hao said, forcing a bitter smile. If they still dare to follow us when we get there, someone will teach them what it means to court death. He spat blood foam, eyes bleak. The great Sumeru hammer, an ultimate Haotian sect technique, could unleash immense power with its ring explosion, but at terrible cost. The temporary surge of soul power from that last explosion had already faded. His soul rings had vanished. His soul power had dropped to level 85 after his broken right hand. If things continued like this, they would be overtaken. He bit back a regretful thought. When they were in Nodding City, he should have killed that kid. If he had been decisive then, things might have been very different. Tang San might now possess a 100,000-year soul ring or bone, but regret was useless now. Survival came first. If they couldn't shake the pursuers before reaching Haotian sect, he'd have to wait for his rings to recover and use the ring explosion again, regardless of the cost. Lin Chuan and Du Gubo were about 3 miles behind, tenacious in pursuit. Lin Chuan kept loosing arrows to harry and hamper them. This direction leads to Tiando City. Where's Tang Hao heading? Du Gubo asked when he saw their course. Lin Chuan only chuckled. Maybe he intends to run straight back to the Haotian sect. Du Gubo's face darkened as realization dawned. Haotian sect? If Tang Hao makes it back there, we'll be in trouble. The current leader, Tang Xiao, is Tang Hao's brother. He used to be called Hao Tian Shuangxing. After all these years, his strength has only grown. Lin Chuan knew it well. Tang Xiao was no weaker than Tang Hao, and his soul power was a level above. He had broken the 95th level barrier and was already a 96th level Super Douluo. With the Haotian sect's titled Douluo arrayed behind him, they would be difficult to oppose. But this time, Tang Hao was gravely wounded. His soul power had plummeted. Lin Chuan would not miss a chance like this. Then we won't let him get back to Haotian sect, he said coldly. He drew and loosed again. Several arrows split the air like falling meteors. Tang Hao raised the clear sky hammer and blocked them all, but each block drained him further. He had to force himself to suppress pain and injury, and his breaths came ragged and loud, his whole chest heaving. You sure you want to be so reckless? Tang Hao rasped between pants. Du Gubo, aren't you worried about Haotian sect's revenge? Du Gubo only sneered. Now you beg for mercy? Too late. From the moment you attacked me in Stardew Forest, this has been a fight to the death. A flare of anger crossed Tang Hao's face. I should have killed you the first chance I had. Stop talking and die. Lin Chuan's voice cut through, and golden light coalesced behind him. Even a Douluo who had activated his spirit true form would be injured by the Golden Gang arrow. Tang Hao at 85 was even more vulnerable. Panic flickered in Tang Hao's eyes, but he had no time to evade. Hao Qian Juju, sealing technique, he cried, swinging the clear sky hammer to raise a wind barrier, hoping to blunt the golden onslaught. He was running on desperation, the barrier barely held. The golden light struck the hammer with such force it sent the weapon crashing into Tang Hao. He coughed up another mouthful of blood, gritted his teeth, and seized the chance to surge forward. Tang Hao, you can't get away. Those who know best should seize him. Dugubo called out, humiliation ringing in Tang Hao's ears. Even the weakest titled Douluo dared to taunt him like this. He swallowed the shame and kept running. His only hope was reaching Hao Qin sect. Once there, even today's humiliation could be avenged. Lin Chuan's hatred sharpened into action. Flames wrapped his body, turning him into a living spear of fire as he leapt forward and left Dugubo behind. Tang Hao heard the rush of air. A spear thrust was coming. His chest tightened. He knew escape was impossible. A wild recklessness lit his eyes. He swung his left hand and hurled Tang San away. Xiao-san, Tang Hao shouted, go to Tiando City, find Master Yue Xuan. She'll hide you. When you're strong enough, kill that little beast. Destroy the spirit hall and avenge your mother and me. No, Dad! Tang San's eyes shone with tears as he reached out, but there was nothing to grab. Tang Hao forced a whisper, his voice breaking with both pain and conviction. You must live your own life. You're strong, son. Don't let me and your mother down. Then his gaze sharpened. Hao Tian Jujue. 9 words merge into one. Beneath Tang Hao's feet, 9 huge characters flared into being. Void, sealed, pierced, penetrated, entangled, shocked, broken, stopped, collapsed. He stood in the center, black light clinging to him. Die, he roared. The Haotian hammer smashed down. Its momentum shook the sky and earth. Lin Chuan, spear in hand, transformed the Luoxia bow into a silver moon spear. Flames and water spiraled along its shaft and coalesced at the tip. The spear burst with golden radiance, an unstoppable edge stabbing out. Water and fire pierced the sky. The silver moon spear spun, drawing an astonishing arc of water that burned into flame as it accelerated. The force guided Tang Hao's hammer aside, redirecting his defense, then drove the spear cleanly into Tang Hao's chest. The impact split him open. Half the spear plunged into his body. Soul power and his remaining strength burst from Tang Hao in a dying spasm. Lin Chuan drew the spear free and pulled back to avoid a final frenzy of resistance, but he needn't have worried. Tang Hao crumpled where he knelt, blood gushing from the great wound in his chest. Without a 9-heart begonia spirit doctor, he had only minutes, if that. You, cough, cough. Tang Hao choked, streaming blood. His eyes were full of resentment, force dying from them. Old injuries tore anew, his strength ebbed away. He had no fight left. Then die. Lin Chuan sneered, bringing the silver moon spear up, aiming it at Tang Hao's head. No, Dad, don't. A desperate roar split the air. Tang San, who had been hurled away, had somehow returned. Seeing Lin Chuan about to deliver the killing blow, he could bear it no longer. Chapter 133. Tang Hao dies. Tang San is crippled. Tang San roared, his hands icy as jade as he kept clutching his waist. Chi chi chi. Dozens of blades of cold light shot from his palms, striking for Lin Chuan's eyes, brow, throat, heart, and abdomen, almost all aimed at vital points. Lancets, locust needles, money darts, bone-piercing nails, even hidden weapons. Tang San himself couldn't name. The sound they made as they cut the air was harsh and metallic. Some flew straight, some at angles, some curved around. Under Tang San's techniques, they bloomed like a rain of blades across the sky. Ha! Child's trick! Lin Chuan snorted. A red light spread from him, and all those rapid projectiles seemed to be stopped by an invisible barrier. They hung suspended in midair for a moment, unable to advance an inch. I almost forgot about you. Come on, then. Lin Chuan thrust his spear, the air surging as he closed the distance in an instant. Not good. Tang San's eyes flashed a purple light. He stamped the ground and vanished, trying to dodge, but he was too late. The spear thundered past, and Tang San's body was struck. He cried out and collapsed, clutching a broken arm and howling in pain. Stop screaming. I'll end your pain right now. Lin Chuan hurled another strike, aiming for Tang San's head. Don't hurt my nephew. A sound like a cleaving wind split the sky. A great clear sky hammer slammed down on Lin Chuan from above. Is this a rescue? Lin Chuan sneered and altered his spear's trajectory, swinging it at the hammer. Bang! A crisp crash echoed as the silver moon spear met the clear sky hammer. The impact threw Tang San across the ground. He hit a tree and spat blood. His vision went black. He passed out. Retreat! A shout split the air. The force on the hammer suddenly erupted, and Lin Chuan was shaken back. He spun the silver moon spear in both hands to dissipate the terrifying force, then backed away and planted his feet. He looked up toward the newcomer, a figure in a black robe, mostly masked. He couldn't see the face clearly, but behind him floated soul rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple, 5 black, and 9 others, rising and falling rhythmically. Hao Tian Hammer, Tang Xiao. Douluo finally caught up and saw the unfamiliar guest. His expression grew grave. The momentum radiating from this man was even greater than Tang Hao's outside the Pope's palace. The visitor said nothing, but his presence alone oppressed the air. The clear sky hammer in his grip flashed with a chilling black light that seemed to drain warmth just by looking at it. You won't admit it? Douluo cut in, guessing Tang Xiao's fear. After all, the Haoqin sect had been forced into hiding by Wuhan Palace and had barely survived by sacrificing several affiliated sects. If Wuhan Palace learned the Haoqin sect had abandoned its mountain again, the blow would be devastating. Boy Lin, I'll act with you. Let's finish this quickly. A majestic momentum rose from Douluo's body, but Lin Chuan frowned and looked past Tang Xiao. More auras were approaching fast, titled Douluo from the Haoqin sect, judging by their colors. Senior Douluo, prepare to withdraw. Reinforcements are coming. That's a shame, Douluo murmured, regret in his tone. If the Haoqin reinforcements had arrived a moment later, Tang Hao and his son might have been captured. Lin Chuan smiled without concern. It's fine. Tang Hao is gravely wounded and dying. Tang San has been crippled and is no longer a threat. If he dares to show his face again, we can finish him then. With Tang Xiao, a super Douluo, standing between them and reinforcements fast on the way, Tang San could no longer win. But Tang Hao had to die, Lin Chuan decided. His eyes flashed with cold light, and in a movement like striking lightning, the silver moon spear lunged for Tang Hao. How dare you! Tang Xiao exploded in fury. He moved like a black shadow, the clear sky hammer crashing down with mountain-breaking force. Don't act like I don't exist. Douluo threw himself before Tang Xiao and glowed with protective light. Get away! Tang Xiao bellowed. With an angry strike, he knocked Douluo away. The other man flew back, spitting blood, his face draining of color. Horror showed in his eyes. This was the power of the world's top martial spirit. The spear clangingly met the hammer and was deflected away from Tang Hao's head, but Lin Chuan twisted the spear and reversed the force. Water-like energy wrapped the spear's shaft as he drove it into Tang Hao's abdomen. The spear pierced, and the inner soul power exploded. Tang Hao's abdomen ruptured. Die! Lin Chuan snarled. Tang Xiao erupted in fury. He unleashed Haoqin's 9 judgments with all his might, far more terrifying in his hands than Tang Hao had ever shown, as if the sky were being pressed down. Lin Chuan mobilized the power of heaven and earth to block it, then went back to defense. The collision sent him coughing a spray of blood. His body blasted backward uncontrollably. Tang Xiao's one blow had landed, but he pursued the victory relentlessly. Wind and rain of arrows. Lin Chuan steadied himself in midair, the silver moon spear turning into a descending bow. He drew and loosed an onslaught of arrows that filled the sky, covering nearly 10 feet in radius. Bastard! Tang Xiao roared and had no choice but to hold the clear sky hammer up to parry. After the barrage was dispersed, Lin Chuan and Douluo had already retreated. Laughter rang from their direction as they escaped, leaving Tang Xiao enraged but unable to chase. Tang Xiao's first priority now was Tang Hao and his son. Brother Hao, sorry I'm so late. He dodged to Tang Hao's side. The older man looked so broken and exhausted, nothing like the vigor of his youth. Tang Xiao's eyes burned red. Brother, Tang Hao opened his eyes with effort, and seeing his brother's face, a breath of relief crossed him. Big brother is here. Don't talk, I'll treat you now, you'll be fine. Tang Xiao poured soul power to stabilize the wounds while cradling Tang Hao. "Brother, don't exert yourself," Tang Hao rasped. He had to force every word from himself. Blood streamed from his mouth and wound. His chest had been pierced before. Now his abdomen had been detonated in the back. Both were mortal injuries. If not for his extraordinary cultivation, he would already be dead. "Don't say that. Big brother's here." Tang Xiao cut him off. Tang Hao seized Tang Xiao's hand with a shaky grip. "Where's the mistress? A yin?" he asked. "She's alive, but—" Tang Xiao answered. "That's enough. Ahem, Xiao-san is my and A Yin's child. Big brother, please take care of him and bring him back to the sect." Tang Xiao nodded immediately. "Brother Hao, don't worry. Xiao-san is your son and my nephew. He'll always belong to the Haoqian sect. I will take good care of him. One of the 2 soul bones belonging to the sect was taken. It's my fault. After I die, brother, you can take the 2 soul bones I still have and give the rest to the mistress for me." Tang Hao's voice steadied briefly as memory took over and he spoke more fluently. "And when Xiao-san wakes, please take him to the Holy Soul Village. I'll place A Yin in a cave behind the village and bury her soul bones beside her. Maybe it will help Xiao-san recover. Please." "Don't worry, I will take good care of her," Tang Xiao said, tears in his eyes, nodding solemnly. Hearing those assurances, Tang Hao relaxed and forced a small smile. Then he vomited more blood, his eyes glazed. His left hand fell limp. Tang Xiao felt the chill of his brother's body and could not hold back his grief. "Brother Hao!" he cried. Lin Chuan didn't see the full scene. The Haotian sect's timely reinforcement had exceeded his expectations. It had saved Tang Hao and Tang San from capture, but at least Tang Hao was gravely wounded, and Tang San had been crippled. Lin Chuan took some comfort in that. The abdominal blow, where the soul power had been concentrated, meant Tang Hao's survival was unlikely unless a Jushin Haitang soul master happened to appear immediately. In Lin Chuan's view, the man was gone. "Ahem, boy Lin, you okay?" Dugubo coughed, blood seeping from the corner of his mouth. "I'm fine, just a scratch," Lin Chuan replied. With his constitution and the goddess's blessing, he would heal quickly. Dugubo, after swigging a breath, shook his head. "It's not too serious. I only need a few days' rest." A trace of fear passed his eyes. "That clear sky hammer, if it had struck me before, I'd be finished." "It's powerful," Lin Chuan acknowledged. "No wonder it's called the strongest martial spirit in the world. Pity the reinforcements came too quickly. We couldn't take the prize. Tang Hao still had a number of soul bones." "What?" Dugubo, who had been sulking about the missed opportunity, suddenly flushed. "That was a huge loss and a huge opportunity. Boy Lin, let's turn back. I'll hold Tang Xiao. You grab Tang Hao's body and we leave with the bones." Dugubo's greed was plain. Lin Chuan's mouth twitched. He understood. Soul bones were precious, and most soul masters had never seen one. As a titled Douluo, Dugubo had only one. Still, Lin Chuan was cautious. "Senior Dugu, don't worry about Tang Hao's soul bones. Tang Xiao isn't the only Haoqian Douluo nearby. More titled Douluo are closing in behind them. If we go back now, it'll be a trap." "Damn Haoqian sect," Dugubo cursed, crestfallen. The chance had slipped through his fingers. He clutched his body from pain and annoyance. Sleep would be difficult for days. Lin Chuan tried to console him with a faint smile. "Well, if fortune favors us, we get them. If not, we die trying. We still managed to wound Tang Hao and cripple Tang San. That counts for something. Besides, didn't the Spirit Hall award 3 soul bones?" "That's right. If you hadn't mentioned it, I wouldn't have remembered. You're flush with riches now." Dugubo's eyes gleamed at the thought. 4 soul bones in total, each over 10,000 years old. He'd never been so wealthy. Youth these days, he thought, were remarkable. His mind sharpening again, Dugubo cleared his throat. "Ahem, Lin, how shall we divide the bones?" Lin Chuan grinned. "Don't worry, Senior Dugu. I won't forget Yanzi." "You better not." Dugubo relaxed and nodded satisfied. "All right, it's safe enough here. Senior, you should heal your wounds." Lin Chuan produced 3 triple-refined healing pills from his storage soul ring and handed them to Dugubo. The pills were potent, far better than common stock. Dugubo accepted them without pretense, swallowed, sat cross-legged, and began to recover. Half an hour later, he was back on his feet. "Lin, come on. Let's hurry back to Tianshui College. Yan Yan and the others will be worried. Besides, Hao Qin might retaliate later." Lin Chuan shook his head. Senior Dugu, you go back first. I have something to do. Where are you going? Want me to come with you? It's nothing big. There won't be more fighting. I'll be back within half a month. Dugubo hesitated, then nodded. All right, you're clever. With your strength, ordinary titled Douluo aren't a match, but keep a low profile. There aren't many super Douluo, but they're not absent either. Don't worry, I know my limits. Then I'll go first. Dugubo wasted no time. After a quick farewell, he pushed toward Tianshui City, hoping to catch up with people who had left earlier. In the blink of an eye, he vanished from sight. I'll go myself, Lin Chuan muttered. Although Tongsan had lost an arm and a leg, regrowing limbs was not impossible, so Lin Chuan planned to find and cut off whatever means Tongsan might have to recover them. Whether he could find it, he reminded himself, would depend on luck. Chapter 134. You have already received the means to die. 300 miles east of Tiando City, unknown peaks rose like sentinels. Mountains hemmed the land in, clouds and mist braided among the crags, and the whole place looked like a slice of paradise cut from the heavens. Mistress, run! Tang Hao looked savage, his body soaked in blood. A blade flashed. Tang Hao's head flew free, his eyes frozen in an expression of unwillingness and fierce light. Xiao-san, avenge me and your mother. No, father. Tang San's roar shredded the dream. He woke to sweat, gasping. The room around him was unfamiliar, and he immediately became wary. He shoved off the quilt to get up, then froze. His right arm and his right leg were gone. My arms, my legs. For a moment, confusion clouded him, then fragments of memory from before the coma snapped back. He had been saved by someone whose martial spirit used the clear sky hammer. Where's father? Is father? He tried to drag himself out of bed, but the door was pushed open first. A man who looked very much like Tang Hao stepped inside. He was about 6 feet tall, broad-shouldered, with a carved, angular face and cropped gray hair. He was old, but his eyes still burned bright as a torch. After 7 days in a coma, you're finally awake, the man said, relief flooding his voice. Tang San stared, dazed. The resemblance to his father struck him like a blow. The man, Tang Xiao, nodded when Tang San hesitated. You heard Brother Hao call you mistress, right? I'm your uncle. My child, you suffered because your uncle was late. Guilt dulled Tang Xiao's features. He had received Tang Youhua's letter and learned what Wuhun Palace had done. He had tried to rally the elders to rescue his younger brother, but he hadn't made it in time. No, uncle. Tang San started, then cut himself off. He shook his head quickly. It's not your fault. If you hadn't come, I might have died. Tang San's voice tightened as he asked the question he feared. Where's my father? Tang Xiao's face shadowed. For a moment, he looked like he might crumple, but he steadied himself and shook his head gently. I'm sorry, mistress. Your uncle failed. Brother Hao, I couldn't save him. How? Tang San's eyes went wide. Blood drained from his face. His lips trembled. Tears tracked down his cheeks. Despite all the hardship between them, Tang San had never had family warmth to cherish until recently. He had only just reunited with his father, and now the reunion was ripped away. Tang Xiao stood silently, grief written plainly on him. He had been fiercely protective of the brother 15 years his junior. To have him die like this, there was nothing he could do. The room weighed heavy with sorrow. After a long pause, Tang San's hoarse voice came. Uncle, where is father's body? I want to see him one last time. Tang Xiao dabbed his eyes with the back of his hand and nodded. I thought you would say that. I haven't buried Hao Di yet. I wanted you to have one last look. But your body, I'll be fine. Tang San forced himself to stand. Tang Xiao stepped forward instinctively to help, but Tang San shook his head stubbornly. Uncle, I can do it. I'm missing an arm and a leg, but I'm not useless. The relief that passed over Tang Xiao's face was palpable. That's the spirit. Come, I prepared crutches. He handed Tang San the crutches. At first, Tang San was awkward, but after a few tries, he got the hang of them, and even laughed at his own clumsiness. Adaptable, he thought to himself. They walked through Haochin sect together. Everyone they passed saluted Tang Xiao respectfully and sneaked glances at Tang San. Word had already spread through the sect that the leader and elders had gone out to rescue a young man, and he had returned with Tang Xiao. They arrived at Tang Xiao's residence. In the spacious courtyard there stood an ice coffin. Tang Hao lay inside, his body drained of blood but peaceful. Father. Tang San couldn't hold back. He crumpled onto the coffin and wept. Tang Xiao laid a hand on his shoulder. Xiao San, pull yourself together. Brother Hao was thinking of you until the end. He wouldn't have wanted to see you like this. You must heal, grow strong, and avenge him. Those words steadied Tang San. He wiped his face and straightened, his eyes filling with hatred that had become a quiet, cold thing. Uncle, I will kill Lin Chuan and poison Douluo and avenge father. And Wuhun Palace too. They forced your mother to die, Tang Xiao added. Tang San turned, questioning. Uncle, tell me about father and mother. Tang Xiao's expression softened into reminiscence. He began to speak slowly, gently, how the three of them had met and traveled together across the mainland, how Yin and Tang Hao had fallen in love, how their identities were exposed, the pursuit by Wuhun Palace, the killing, and Yin's forced sacrifice. For half an hour, Tang Xiao told everything he knew. At last Tang San understood why he had no mother from his youth, why Tang Hao had fallen into despair, and why the Wuhun Palace, or Martial Soul Hall, was the source of such bitter grief. Hatred rose in Tang San like a coiled thing. If I, Tang San, don't destroy the Spirit Hall in this life, I will have lived for nothing, he thought. Lin Chuan killed my father and cut off my limbs. He's received the means to die. I will kill him. A flicker of fear for Lin Chuan passed through Tang San's eyes, but it was overwhelmed by resolve. Even though his clear sky hammer spirit had been pierced away and only the blue-silver grass remained in his martial soul, and even with only one arm and one leg left, he believed he could catch up and kill Lin Chuan. He had Xuanqian technique and countless hidden weapons to help him. He would have his revenge. Tang San, don't put too much pressure on yourself, Tang Xiao said quietly. Hao Qin sect will be behind you. He then said, these are your father's soul bones. I'll give them to you now, but you'd better not absorb them yet. Before he died, Brother Hao told me to take you back to Holy Soul Village. Your mother was buried on the hill behind the village. There's the 100,000-year soul bone left by your mother. I don't know the exact spot. I'll take you there when you've recovered. 3 rays of light shot out from Tang Xiao's portable soul guide, hovering in the air. 3 soul bones, the skull, the torso bone, and the right leg bone. The left leg bone and the left arm bone had been returned to the sect. Even as sect leader, Tang Xiao had to consider the elders' feelings. It wasn't easy to leave 3 soul bones to Tang San. Tang San knew the value of soul bones. He was deeply moved that his uncle would hand over their father's relics to him. Thank you, uncle, he said. Tang Xiao waved it off. We're family. Rest well, mistress. When you're better, I'll take you to Holy Soul Village. Tang San nodded. Tang Xiao hesitated, then said, stay here with your father. I have to deal with something. Please go then, uncle, Tang San replied. Tang Xiao left the courtyard. He walked only a few steps before 5 white-haired elders appeared, as if from the mist. They looked over 80, thin but with a fierce vitality about them. What do the elders want? Tang Xiao asked. A slight, thin elder stepped forward slowly. Sectmaster, are you really going to let that brat of Tang Hao's stay in the sect? Tang Xiao's face went cold. He's my nephew. Xiao San is Brother Hao's son. So what? The thin elder snapped, anger flaring. His whole frame trembled. If Tang Hao hadn't brought those beasts to harm the sect, my eldest son wouldn't have died in the Wuhun Palace incident. And this little bastard, born of a spirit beast, do you want him tarnishing the sect's name? Presumptuous. Tang Xiao's temper snapped. Soul power rose off him like a tide and pinned the 5 elders back. The thin elder in particular went red, his legs buckling under the pressure. Enough, master. A long-browed elder stepped forward quickly. His calm dispelled the pressure in an instant. The 5 elders breathed easier, though still wary. Sectmaster, Lao Qi was foolish just now. Please forgive him. Tang Xiao's expression darkened. A cold snort left him. This time, he said, but not next time. Brother Hao is dead. His mistakes should not be repaid by Xiao San. Haoqian blood runs through him, so he will be recognized. If anyone has a different opinion, say it now. No one spoke. Tang Xiao's quiet, cold authority left no room for argument. The elders exchanged glances, but dared not contradict him. Tang Hao had once been part of the sect. This concession was already something. Tang Xiao continued. Brother Hao took 2 inheritance soul bones from the sect when he left. He lost his right arm bone, replaced it with his left arm bone. We will leave those 2 bones with the elders until the next sect leader is chosen, or until a disciple makes a truly outstanding contribution. Then they may be awarded." He produced a long black box from his soul guide and handed it to the long-browed elder. The gesture was a form of compensation, and the elder knew this was the most reasonable resolution. He accepted the box and inclined his head. Although Hao left the sect, he was still the son of the old sect master. We will follow the sect master's wishes. With the matter settled, Tang Xiao let out a long breath. He had kept his promise to Tang Hao, at least insofar as he could. Inside the courtyard, Tang San had heard everything. A cold light shone in his eyes. His parents were dead, and people were still insulting them like this. This was the Haotian sect. He tightened his grip on his crutches. Sooner or later, he thought, I will clear father's name and make everyone who disparaged him apologize. Chapter 135, Great Harvest, Phasno Province, Nodding City. Lin Chuan hadn't been back in a long time, and the place showed obvious changes since he left. Wearing a faceless mask, he walked the streets of Nodding. He had just won the championship in the elite competition of the Advanced Soul Master Academy, and although Nodding was remote and word might travel slowly, it was better to be careful. He ducked into an inn, and when he left, he already knew where the Holy Soul village lay. Not lingering in the city, Lin Chuan set off at once for the village. After half an hour through mountains and forest, an ordinary little settlement came into view, and a stone tablet at the entrance bore the 3 characters, Holy Soul Village. Found it, he muttered. Rather than enter the village, Lin Chuan skirted around and headed for the back mountain. From the outside, the scenery looked unremarkable. It would be easy to miss a small blue-silver grass in a place like this. But he vaguely remembered Tang Hao burying Yin's seed in a cave behind a waterfall. All he had to do was find the waterfall. Wanting to avoid trouble, he moved quickly. Half an hour later, he heard the sound of running water. A smile crossed his face. He pushed through the trees, and his view opened to a small waterfall, a silvery sheet tumbling into a pool below. Lin Chuan sprang toward it. Flames flickered along his body, shielding him from the spray as he planted his feet on the rock, used the force to climb, and ignored the torrent. In moments, he had reached about halfway up. He found a crack and hooked his fingers into it, then groped along the rock wall. His hand found a section that felt different, a seam so well hidden it almost looked continuous with the stone. With a little pressure, it budged. There was a sharp rasp, then a small door slid open in the rock. "So it's here," Lin Chuan breathed, letting go and slipping inside. A wisp of golden flame escaped his mouth, and the damp chill vanished. The fire illuminated the cramped chamber. Lin Chuan moved cautiously, alert for traps. Apparently Tang Hao hadn't expected visitors, or perhaps he assumed no one would find the spot. A dim light trickled in from the ceiling. The chamber was small, perhaps 10 square meters, and otherwise simple. In the center, rising from a little mound of soil, stood a blue-silver grass far larger than any Lin Chuan had seen, its blades tinged with delicate golden veins. Is this the blue-silver emperor? It's beautiful. He'd never laid eyes on such a specimen. But Yin was still unconscious. With so little sunlight and soul energy in the cave, it had grown very slowly. Lin Chuan shook his head at Tang Hao's choice to hide it in such a dark place. What had he been thinking? After a quick scan, Lin Chuan tore his gaze away from the plant and inspected the stone above. There, wedged in a crevice, was a long black box. He leapt up and snatched it down. When he pried it open, a surge of energy rushed out like the air had stiffened. Inside lay a right leg bone, blue gold and translucent, a faint starlight flickering within. A breath of life, familiar, alive, brushed against his face. It felt as if the bone itself were sentient. Lin Chuan stared, eyes burning. "A soul bone from 100,000-year soul beast," he whispered. "No wonder it's so strong." He closed the box carefully, slipping it into his storage soul guide. Tang Hao was dead, but who else might know about this place? Better to take it and be safe. Then his thoughts flicked back to the blue-silver emperor. Should he kill it or keep it? Plant-type soul beasts could regrow after death and recover cultivation without soul rings or bones, like a perpetual motion power source. The idea excited him, but he shook his head. Even with abilities like ice and fire yin-yang eyes to accelerate growth, By the time such a plant reached a 100,000-year level, he would likely be a god. Kill it? He murmured to himself, then shook his head again. Pulling it out would feel wasteful. A thought suddenly occurred to him. In the weapon refining manual he had acquired, there was mention of a special technique. Integrate a beast's soul into a weapon during refinement, then nurture it with the owner. The weapon might gain consciousness and become a weapon spirit, far more powerful and less draining. Could he refine the blue-silver emperor together with the soul bone to create a weapon with a spirit? The idea thrilled him. It wasn't impossible. For animal-type soul beasts, the soul resided in rings, but plant-type beasts were different. In the original account, Yin had come back without needing rings or bones. Worth a try, he decided. Better to use it than to hack it up for parts. If a spirit formed, as long as Lin Chuan infused his blood essence into the refining process, the weapon would obey him. He even found himself hoping Yin might regain her memory as a spirit, though an uncomfortable image of Tang San confronting his mother, controlled by an enemy, flashed through Lin Chuan's mind, and he quickly banished it. "Let's do this," he said, and set to work. He dug the blue-silver emperor out with bare hands, planted it into a jade bottle to keep it safe, and sealed it so it wouldn't die in the short term. After one last sweep of the cave to make sure there was nothing left behind, he stepped out, crossed back over the waterfall, and left Holy Soul Village at a fast pace. About a week later, Tianshui City appeared on the horizon. Finally back, Lin Chuan exhaled. He didn't go into the city, instead returning directly to Tianshui College. The entrance looked unchanged. Neither Haotian sect nor the Spirit Hall had made any overt moves. The Haotian sect remained secluded on their mountain. If they did act publicly against the Spirit Hall, it would be too obvious. And the Spirit Hall, though ambitious, was likely biding its time. It wouldn't risk a full conflict before Bibidong's divine test concluded. As he approached the grove behind the college, a few familiar presences detected him. Dugubo arrived first. When he saw Lin Chuan intact, he laughed with relief. "Lin boy, you're finally back." "Thank you for your concern, Senior Dugu," Lin Chuan replied with a bow. Dugubo smiled, and noticing his mood, asked quietly, "You seem in good spirits? Everything go as planned?" Lin Chuan only chuckled and didn't answer. Dugubo didn't press further. "Xiao Chuan!" Voices called, and Shui Lanshin with a group of girls came running up. They all greeted him with bright smiles. "Long time no see, Dean. Sorry to have worried you." "I'm glad you're safe," Shui Lanshin said, unused to showing relief. "So nothing's happened at the college?" Lin Chuan asked casually. Shui Lanshin shook her head. "The Spirit Hall hasn't made a move. Whether they're secretly planning something or they've actually pulled back, I don't know." "It's not that they've given up," Dugubo said. "The Spirit Hall took a huge hit this time. They'll want revenge. Since they dared to kill during the competition and then openly attacked afterward, it shows their ambitions. It won't be long before things across the continent get turbulent." Shui Lanshin's face clouded with worry. Both Tianshui College and the Shui family had long been targets of the Spirit Hall and the Tiando Empire. Unlike Leiting College, Tianshui had not aligned decisively with one faction and instead leaned on allies like Blazing Fire College and Divine Wind College, a temporary shield, not a solution. If the Spirit Hall went to war, the three colleges wouldn't stay on the sidelines. "Enough of that for now," Shui Lanshin said, forcing a smile. "We'll deal with it when the time comes. By the way," she added, "the Tiando Empire sent word. The prince wishes to invite you to Tiando City. Emperor Shuye wants to see you." Lin Chuan raised an eyebrow. "Oh?" Chapter 136, Generous Goddess of Life. "Emperor Shui wants to see us?" Lin Chuan repeated, surprised. After everything that happened in the elite competition, he still invited Tianshui Academy? "I understand. Let's leave for Tiando City in 2 days," he answered quietly. The invitation came personally from the Emperor of the Tiando Empire. Refusing would be impolite. Besides, for the time being, they still had to operate inside the Tiando Empire, so they had to keep on good terms. Shui Lanshin nodded, her beautiful eyes sweeping over the students. She smiled softly. "Children," she said, "Emperor Shui took the initiative to invite us. It looks like he's trying to recruit you. He'll certainly promise many benefits. This is a rare opportunity. Think it over carefully." The Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Elite Competition had ended with Tianshui Academy taking the championship, and the members of the Tianshui team had graduated. Shui Lanxin, both the dean of Tianshui College and a member of the Shui family, naturally wanted to keep so many outstanding students, preferably into the Shui family itself. But she knew the reality. After winning the elite championship, the whole team had become highly sought after. The Tiando Empire would not readily let such talent slip away. Compared to the Empire, the Shui family's resources and status were minor. She wouldn't force anyone, but she sincerely wished the students a better future. No matter where they went, they would always be alumni of Tianshui College. Their bonds ran deep. "Let's put that aside for now," Lin Chuan said, clapping lightly to get everyone's attention. The girl's eyes lit up. Lin Chuan didn't gloat. He tapped the storage soul guide on his fingertip, and 3 soul bones with faint halos appeared in the air. The reaction was instantaneous. A spirit-condensed wisdom skull, a right arm of blazing flame, and the left leg of the wind chaser. "How generous the spirit hall is," someone exclaimed. Shui Lanqin pressed a hand to her chest, swallowing a small flutter of excitement. "Xiaochuan, how do you plan to divide them?" Every girl looked at Lin Chuan the moment she said that. Lin Chuan could read the desire barely hidden behind their gazes and felt a headache coming on. 3 soul bones, 9 people. It was a difficult choice. "Dean, you really gave me a problem," he said, rolling his eyes at Shui Lanqin in mock protest. Then, more seriously, he added, "First of all, I give up. These 3 bones won't help me much." He went on to point out who would benefit most. Yanzi has poison and earth attributes, and Lingling is an auxiliary-type soul master. The right arm of blazing flame isn't suitable for them. The wind chaser's left leg is ideal for agility-type soul masters. Yuer and Qingbo would use it best. The wisdom skull is broadly useful, but it particularly boosts soul masters who attack through remote martial soul control. Binger, Shuiwu, and Lingling fit that category. Lin Chuan didn't dictate the allocation. He only named the most suitable candidates. The 5 possible recipients exchanged looks and fell silent. It was a hard decision. Ye Lingling spoke first. "I'll pass. Winning the elite championship is already my greatest reward. I only appeared once and my contribution was small. Give the skull to Binger and Shuiwu." Shui Binger and Shuiwu blinked, surprised. They hadn't expected Lingling to step aside so readily, especially for the precious wisdom skull. Perhaps only Lin Chuan and the others understood why she did it. "All right, Lingling gives up, so what do you 2 think?" Lin Chuan asked, looking at the other 2. Because of Shuiwu and Shui Binger's close partnership in practicing martial soul fusion techniques, it made sense to let them decide. Shuiwu glanced at Shui Binger, smiled, and shook her head. "Give it to Sister Binger. I'm an auxiliary soul master. The skull will increase her strength far more." Binger, Shui Binger's face shifted as she prepared to refuse. "No, don't refuse, Sister Binger. My martial soul doesn't gain much from it. It will help you more." Shui Binger opened her mouth, but had no effective counter-argument. Shuiwu teased, "Stop being modest, Sister Binger. If you get stronger, so do I. As a little auxiliary, I'll have to rely on you to protect me." Seeing her old partner wink, Shui Binger relaxed and finally smiled. "Then I'll accept it." So the wisdom skull went to Shui Binger. Lin Chen turned to Shui Yuer and Gu Qingbo. Between the 2 of them, the dolphin and the blue swordfish, it made sense that the wind chaser leg, dropped by a sea soul beast, belonged to them. "Let's give it to Yuer," he decided. Gu Qingbo chuckled and shook his head, yielding the claim. With no objections, the wind chaser's left leg went to Shui Yuer. The 3 bones had been distributed, and while the winners were delighted, none of the others showed ill will. As teammates, they had grown close. They would not turn on one another over this. Shui Lanqin breathed easy. If she had made the decision, she knew it would have looked biased. This way, everything was fair. "Children," she said softly, "the elite competition is over, and you have all met the graduation requirements. Whatever the future holds, whether you stay at the academy or leave, you will always be members of Tianshui College. I wish you bright futures." Her words were light but heartfelt. All good things end. Some would stay, some would go. The 3 short years were over, but the memories would last. After a brief wistfulness, Shui Longqin arranged for them to depart for Tiando City in 2 days to meet Emperor Shuiye. Many of the girls scattered to various tasks. Shui Binger and Shui Yuer stayed at Shui Longqin's wooden house to begin absorbing their new soul bones. Others gathered by the academy pond. Here, Yanzi, this one will suit you. Lin Chuan took the right arm bone from his storage soul guide and handed it to Du Yan. The bone had come from Tang Hao. Its exact origin was unknown, but the earth attribute power within it was unmistakable and matched Du Yan perfectly. Xiao Yanzi's face lit up. She threw herself into Lin Chuan's arms, rose on tiptoe, and planted a quick kiss on his cheek. Thank you, Xiao Chuan. I love this gift. Lin Chuan was momentarily stunned by the sudden show of affection. Looking down into her warm, bright eyes, his expression softened involuntarily. Hurry and absorb it, he said. She kissed him again, leaving 2 faint prints on his cheek, took the bone, and bounded back to the wooden house. Lin Chuan turned and met the hard, evaluating gaze of Dugu Bo. Senior Dugu, why are you looking at me like that? Lin Chuan asked. Humph, the old man sniffed. Lin boy, I only have one granddaughter. Since she chose you, I won't interfere. But you listen to me, don't bully her when you can. And if you do, even if I'm not your match, I'll make you regret it. Lin Chuan's mouth twitched. Dugu Bo was all bluster and bluster alone, but Lin Chuan kept his reply modest. Senior, don't worry. I won't let Yanzi down. At that moment, a soft, cool hand slipped into his. Ye Lingling stood beside him, her large, expressive eyes fixed on him with a quiet look. Lin Chuan tightened his grip around her small hand. Humph, words are enough, Dugu Bo grunted, noticing the scene and twitching slightly. After a moment's thought, he vanished with a blur. Lin Chuan released Ye Lingling's hand and looked at her. Lingling, how did your god exam go? She didn't hide anything. The reward was very generous. It raised my soul power by 2 levels, increased the age of all my soul rings by 500 years, and granted me 5% life affinity. Wow, Lin Chuan couldn't help but inhale sharply. Compared to other divine tests, the 9 trials of life had been incredibly generous. It seemed the goddess of life was benevolent indeed. What about the second test? Do you need my help? Ye Lingling shook her head a little regretfully. Brother Chuan, I don't think you can help with this one. The second trial requires me to reach the Temple of Life within 3 years and successfully condense life energy. That sounds difficult, Lin Chuan said, curious. It wasn't impossible, but it demanded talent and the right conditions. Do you know where the Temple of Life is? I do, she replied. The location is explained in the divine test. That saves some time, he said. Can outsiders enter the Temple of Life? Ye Lingling closed her eyes briefly and probed with her spirit. After a moment, she smiled and shared the answer. I asked the goddess of life. She allowed it. That's wonderful. Please thank her for me. Lin Chuan's tone brightened. If outsiders could enter the temple, he didn't need to take the god exam to go there. Understanding the laws of life firsthand would be invaluable. Chapter 137, Goodwill and Winning Over. A few days later, Lin Chuan made a special trip to the Sunset Forest and planted the Blue-Silver Emperor into the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. Although his original plan was to refine tools with the beast, what he really needed was its beast's soul. The Blue-Silver Emperor was currently very weak. Whether Ah Yin's soul still lingered inside was uncertain. It was safer to nourish it for a while before attempting to extract anything. A few days after that, under the leadership of Shui Longqin and Dugu Yan, the entire Tianshui team arrived in Tiando City. They had evidently been watched for some time. Before long, as Lin Chuan and the others reached the gates of Dugu Bo's mansion, an armored knight came out to meet them. Excuse me, are you Dean Shui Longqin of Tianshui College? The knight asked. Shui Longqin stepped forward and nodded. I am Shui Longqin. May I know who you represent? The knight breathed heavily, his expression severe. There was a faint, murderous quality to him. When Lin Chuan screened him with soul power, he detected a soul fluctuation that betrayed a respectable cultivation. I was ordered by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince to escort you to the palace. The knight spoke in a low, official tone and then gestured. Since the Crown Prince has summoned you, please follow me. Dean Shui, you are too polite. Please lead the way, Shui Longqin replied. With the Crown Prince's insignia in hand, They passed through the city gates and were guided smoothly to the prince's mansion. Someone had been waiting at the door. When they arrived, Shui Qinghe stepped forward with a warm smile, hurrying to greet them. "Brother Lin, you really made me wait," he said, taking Lin Chuan's hand with an easy intimacy that made several of the others visibly uncomfortable. Even Lin Chuan flinched inwardly. He recognized the gesture. "The distinguished guests from Tianshui College have arrived, Your Highness," the knight reported. Shui Qinghe waved a careless hand. "Thank you for your service, General Wang. You may go." The armored knight bowed and withdrew without another word. Several girls bowed slightly to Shui Qinghe as they entered, their voices full of respect. "There's no need for formalities. You've had a long journey. I was eager to have you at the prince's mansion tonight. Don't blame me for being impatient," Shui Qinghe said. Lin Chuan returned the greeting softly. He knew from subtle cues that the man standing before him as Shui Qinghe was actually Qian Renshui in disguise. Otherwise, such an enthusiastic display of affection from a large man would likely have triggered a defensive reaction. Still, he allowed the hand to be held for a moment before gently pulling away. "You've shown brilliantly in this elite competition," Shui Qinghe continued. Lin Chuan detected something in Shui Qinghe's expression, an undercurrent of fear and respect. A soul emperor like him could intimidate even a titled Douluo, and Shui Qinghe's pair of powerful domains were beyond what most could handle. Lin Chuan realized the young prince understood his value. A genius like Lin Chuan was both an asset and, if unused, a future obstacle to any plan for continental unification. "Brother Shui, you are too kind," Lin Chuan said. "I'm not flattering you." Shui Qinghe shook his head, smiling. "I want to congratulate you on defeating the Spirit Hall and winning the championship in this competition. My father was very pleased when he heard. I've already arranged for you all to be summoned to the court tomorrow, where you will be honored and rewarded. For tonight, rest at the prince's mansion." He waved toward a woman who looked like a housekeeper. "Show the Tianshui guests to their rooms and make sure they're well taken care of. Do not neglect them." "Yes, Your Highness," the housekeeper answered with a bright bow. "Please follow me." Shui Lanshan led the Tianshui team away, and Lin Chuan had planned to follow, but Qinghe stopped him. "Brother Lin, if you don't mind, would you accompany me for a walk?" Shui Qinghe asked. Lin Chuan nodded and turned to Du Guyan and Ye Lingling. "You two go rest. I'll be right back." "All right, come back early, Xiao Chuan." Du Guyan smiled and took Ye Lingling's hand as they left. Shui Qinghe, who had been playfully patting Lin Chuan's shoulder, teased, "Brother Lin is lucky. Du Guyan and Ye Lingling are both rare beauties. You're blessed to have two lovely companions. I envy you." "Brother Shui, don't tease me. You're the prince of the Tiando Empire. One day you'll have thousands of beauties in your harem. I can't compare with that." Lin Chuan laughed. Shui Qinghe's expression suddenly sobered. "Please don't say that. Although I am the prince, my father is still strong, and he has the final say on the succession. If he decides something is best for the empire, I will not complain, even if it goes against my wishes." The show of filial piety was dramatic enough to have fooled anyone who didn't know the truth. Lin Chuan suppressed a smile. "No one doubts your loyalty, Brother Shui. Between the two remaining princes, you are the one the empire needs. Shui Beng's domineering nature would be a shame for the royal family. It would be a disaster if he succeeded." He switched topics smoothly. "Both princes were raised the same way. Why the huge difference in behavior? It's odd." Shui Qinghe's eyes narrowed. He considered Lin Chuan's words carefully. He remembered how, after a string of incidents, one prince had become dandyish and withdrawn. It hadn't struck him as suspicious before, but now, with Lin Chuan's remark, the old pattern looked strange. Had someone been deliberately concealing weakness to survive? The deaths of the other princes suddenly seemed worthy of scrutiny. He concealed his thoughts and smiled lightheartedly. "I've been busy with state affairs, and I admit I haven't disciplined him as strictly as I should have. I'll correct that." "With your guidance, Shui Beng will have a chance to become a pillar of the empire," Lin Chuan replied. "It would be a blessing." Shui Qinghe laughed it off, then changed the subject. "Let's not dwell on that. Brother Lin, aside from the 2 early wins by Wuhun Palace and one by the Star Luo Empire, the Tiando Empire hasn't done well in the competition. Your victory this time has made my father very happy." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "My father values you greatly and wants to reward you, an earldom with a fief. In decades, few have been granted territory. With your talent, in 10 years or so, you could be one of the great men of the mainland." For soul masters, honorary viscount titles were common and largely ceremonial, no real power or land. A territorial noble, however, was different. Enfeoffment granted both authority and revenue, the right to raise a private force, collect taxes, and wield real regional influence. Emperors were reluctant to do this too often. The more fiefs there were, the weaker central control. But faced with the Wuhan Palace's growing threat, Emperor Shui had been forced to use bold measures to attract top talent. A new territorial noble could be a bulwark against rivals or a counterweight to powerful houses, if properly managed. "Such a reward is more than I deserve," Lin Chuan said, surprised. The idea of a fief was tempting. Tax income, resources, and legitimate means to finance his research into medicines and materials would be invaluable. Shui Qing had produced a stack of documents from his soul guide and handed them to Lin Chuan. "This is the area my father and the ministers have discussed. They've prepared the plans. Think it over." Lin Chuan accepted the papers without ceremony. "Thank you, Brother Shui. I won't forget this favor." Shui Qing's smile brightened. "We are all members of the Empire. We should help one another. If you're interested in serving in the court, I can recommend you to my father." Lin Chuan shook his head politely. "I appreciate the offer, Brother Shui, but I don't intend to pursue an official position. However, you may be assured that so long as the Empire does not attack me first, I will not take actions harmful to the Tiando Empire." Shui Qing nodded, satisfied. The conversation was amicable, a mix of goodwill, ambition, and a delicate balance of power. As they walked back toward the mansion, both men carried thoughts of what tomorrow's court summons might bring. Chapter 138, Another Godly Throne. The next morning, everyone from Tianshui Academy, dressed in their best under the careful attention of the prince's mansion attendants, followed Shui Qinghe to the imperial court. The Tiando Imperial Palace was spectacular, gold-gilded halls and vast courtyards that momentarily blinded the eye. Royal guards stood everywhere. The security felt absolute. Rumors said only titled Douluo could move about freely here. Anyone else would be stopped at once. Inside the palace, Emperor Shui sat upon his throne, while the ministers formed two long rows below, all facing the main doors. Shui Qinghe and the others bowed and stood aside. "Father, everyone from Tianshui Academy has been brought here," Qinghe reported. Emperor Shui inclined his head once. His eyes flicked over the group. When they landed on Lin Chuan, there was a quick, appraising glance that held both approval and scrutiny. Lin Chuan returned the look and bowed. Although the emperor showed no outward temper, there was a faint presiding aura about him, less the cultivated arrogance of a longtime ruler, and more the quiet strength of someone who had once been a hero in his youth. "Your Majesty, I am Dean Shui from Tianshui Academy." Shui Lanqin stepped forward and saluted, hands raised. They weren't imperial subjects in the full sense, and so did not kneel. The others followed her lead and bowed. "Dean Shui, there's no need to be so formal." Emperor Shui waved off the courtesy with a thin smile. "These must be the contestants from Tianshui Academy. Very fine talents. Dean Shui has done an excellent job." Shui Lanqin forced a modest smile. "You flatter us, Your Majesty. The students worked hard. In any case, congratulations to Tianshui Academy for your performance in the elite competition. It brought honor to the Empire." The Emperor's tone grew solemn. "As I promised during the qualifiers, the Empire will reward those who distinguish themselves." A hush fell over the ministers. The Emperor's announcement that followed brought bright faces and sudden tension in equal measure. For their contributions, all contestants from Tianshui Academy will be granted the title of Earl of Meritorious Service and receive an imperial stipend. Each will be awarded 500,000 gold soul coins and granted access to the first floor of the royal treasury to select a treasure. "Thank you, Your Majesty," the girls murmured, their cheeks lighting up. Emperor Shui's gaze then fixed on Lin Chuan. "This young man is Lin Chuan, is he not?" "Lin Chuan pays homage to Your Majesty," Lin replied, cupping his hands. "You are indeed a talented youth," the emperor nodded. You shone in the competition and brought great honor to the Tiando Empire. As promised, I will reward you accordingly." He paused, and the court waited. "For Lin Chuan, I confer the title of Marquise. He will receive an annual salary in the thousands of shi, a marquisate as fief, and 1 million gold soul coins. In addition, Marquise Lin may enter the first through third floors of the royal treasury to select 2 treasures." A gasp ran through the Tianshui group. Shuiqing's hint from the day before had not prepared them for this. Marquise was far above an earl. Even the champion of the elite competition would normally receive only an earl's title. That Lin had been elevated directly to Marquis was unexpected. Access to 3 floors of the imperial treasury and 1 million gold soul coins. This was real power and favor. "Thank you, Your Majesty," Lin Chuan said, composed. "Marquise Lin, no need for formalities," Emperor Shui replied with a faint, inscrutable smile. "Continue to carry the Empire's prestige, and do not let us down." Lin inclined his head. "Your Majesty, I will not disappoint you." "Very well. Eunuch Hao, escort Marquise Lin and the earls from Tianshui Academy to the treasury." An elderly eunuch stepped forward from the imperial attendants. His face was lined, his smile practiced and placid. "Marquise Lin, earls of Tianshui Academy, please follow me." "Thank you, sir," they replied in unison, bowed once more to the emperor, and then departed the throne hall in the eunuch's wake toward the royal treasury. After winding through several guarded corridors, they stopped before a massive ironclad door. 4 royal guards stood watch at its sides. Patrols came by every quarter hour. It was clear how seriously the Tiando family guarded their vaults. "General Zhu, by order of His Majesty, I have brought the Tianshui Academy delegation to select treasures," the eunuch announced as they halted before the door. General Zhou, the commander on duty, eyed the party gravely and nodded. "Understood. Open the vault." A guard took the token the eunuch handed him and fitted it into a slot on the door. There was a soft mechanical click, bolts withdrew, and the heavy door ground open on oil-slick hinges. Beyond lay the treasury, dimly lit and lined with shelves of lacquered precious wood, each compartment filled with sundry treasures, rare herbs packed in porcelain, forging materials of every rarity, master-forged armor. The sheer wealth was nearly overwhelming. "Master Marquis, you will have half an hour. Please choose quickly and in order. The treasury will only remain open for 30 minutes, the eunuch warned. "From here on, you must enter on your own." "Thank you, sir." Lin Chuan stepped forward with the others. The eunuch bowed one final time and closed the distance, leaving them inside. They had barely adjusted to the lower light when they moved into the main hall of the treasury. The first floor contained thousands of items, useful, valuable, but common enough to stock an imperial storehouse. Du Guyan clicked his tongue at the extravagance. The other girls, dazzled, began to pick through items in small groups. "Don't waste time staring," Lin Chuan whispered, snapping them out of their stupor. "You only have half an hour. Make a note of anything that catches your eye. If you can't find something better later, go back for it." They dispersed, hunting among the first-floor shelves. Lin Chuan moved on quickly. He assumed the real treasures would be on the upper levels. The second floor's decor was more refined, and the number of items dwindled to only a few hundred, more exquisite but rarer. Lin glanced and continued upward. The third floor contained only a few dozen pieces, each item of exceptional rarity. He scanned the displays. Many were soul guidance implements, some intact and powerful. One damaged piece, a broken soul guide, caught his eye, but its form was ruined and it couldn't unleash its full potential. After a brief inspection, Lin lost interest. He was looking for something very specific. He thought at once of the vast sea cosmic shield, the priceless relic whose fame he'd heard whispered about. It was the Tiando Empire's most treasured artifact. There was no way it would be left casually among these shelves. Lin had only come to try his luck, not expecting to find the shield here. "Then we have to find some other way," he muttered. He was turning to inspect another display when a faint ripple brushed past his senses. Lin froze and swiveled his head. On a low, unassuming stand sat a small black token, plain, featureless, without any inscription. Yet the strange fluctuation had emanated from it. If his spiritual sensitivity hadn't been strong enough, he might not have noticed. "What's this?" Lin reached for the token and slipped a thread of soul power into it. The black surface dimly shimmered, then stilled. He frowned, then used his mental probing to analyze the object. It did not react outwardly, but an internal presence answered him, and it felt unmistakably godly. The sensation was similar to that he had felt from the pill beads in Binghuo Liangyi's eyes. Could it be? Lin's eyes narrowed. He poured more intent into the token, and a quiet, resonant voice of understanding brushed his mind. You feel the power of the earth god. You gain a little. Your comprehension of the earth element deepens. Lin's face brightened, so it was as he hoped. This unremarkable black token was an artifact left by a deity, an assessment relic used to test and recognize heirs of a godly legacy, much like the vast sea cosmic shield. Only those approved by such a token could truly attune to the god it represented. Tsk, Lin murmured with a small, wry smile. He had come expecting to pick two ordinary treasures at random. Instead, he had stumbled onto an earth god's selection token. If the Tiando court didn't notice the token's subtle aura, then by chance it had been overlooked, fortunate for him. He slipped the token into his sleeve and kept an eye on the nearby displays. He still glanced at the surrounding soul guidance devices. Perhaps there were more godly relics hidden among them. If there were, he intended to find them. Chapter 139, Chapter 138, Plan Acceleration. Half an hour passed quickly. As Lin Chuan had suspected, the remaining soul guides were nothing more than that, soul guides. No more artifact hearts appeared. He had prepared himself mentally, so he wasn't disappointed. Securing a divine inheritance from the treasury had already been a huge stroke of luck. After all, this was not an ordinary favor. Both the earth god and the sea god were first-rank deities. Which of the two was stronger remained unclear, but either way, it was a rare prize. What a haul, Lin Chuan muttered to himself. With the collection time nearly up, he stopped lingering and picked up the star sand he had chosen, along with the black token. He headed down. Outside the treasury, Du Guyan and the others had been waiting for a long time. As soon as Lin Chuan appeared in the passage, several of them hurried forward. "My lord, you're finally out. How was it? Did you pick something you like?" The old eunuch who had stood watch came forward immediately. Lin Chuan smiled. "It's good. The imperial treasury is enormous, too many treasures. I was a little dazzled, so I only took two pieces that I liked." He didn't try to hide the black token or the star sand from them. Before entering the treasury, all the soul guides had been left outside, and this was Tiando Palace. No one foolish enough to try stealing would survive long. "Your Majesty, don't be disappointed. Make great contributions to the Empire in the future, and His Majesty will surely reward you again," the eunuch said with practiced flattery. Lin Chuan narrowed his eyes and felt a smile curl in his chest. Even the palace eunuchs spoke in terms of loyalty to the Empire. No wonder emperors had always favored them. Their flattery was so smooth, it hardly felt like flattery at all. The Tiando treasury was precious to most, but it did not move him deeply. Still, appearances had to be kept. Lin Chuan returned the smile. "That would be great. I hope I can visit again." The eunuch beamed and ingratiated himself further. "With your talent, you'll achieve greatness. By the next time we meet, maybe I'll have to change my name." "You flatter me, my lord. May I borrow your kind words?" Another courtier chimed in, all smiles. He truly was a professional flatterer, accurate and subtle, never clumsy. No wonder so many rulers relied on eunuchs. In the days that followed, Tiando City celebrated. After decades, the Tiando Empire's team had again won the championship at the continent-wide elite competition of the Advanced Soulmaster Academy. Emperor Shui Ye seized the moment to amplify his influence. With imperial propaganda and staged ceremonies, the whole city was swept up in festivities, banquets, awards, titles of nobility. Everyone knew the message the court wanted to send. The Tiando Empire had acquired a new powerful noble with territory. The implication was clear. Lin Chuan had defected to Tiando. The publicity was meant to attract more soul masters to the empire. Lin Chuan understood the game and played along. He accepted the honors and the attention without protest. When the celebrations wound down, representatives from Tiando Palace came to discuss the territory he would receive and the design of his noble badge. Lin Chuan had already thought these matters through. He chose a territory in Shuofeng Lengyuan, on the border of two provinces, only 300 miles from Tianshui City, conveniently close. The region's administrative center was Shuiyuan City, one main city, two small cities, four towns, and about 100 villages, with a population of roughly 200,000. It wasn't the most prestigious choice available, but the proximity to Tianshui made it very practical. Lin Chuan didn't want to be far from home. Being northeast of Tiando City, the area was also away from Wuhan City and the Xingluo Empire, so it wouldn't be the first place to see fighting if war ever erupted. Most importantly, closeness to Tianshui College meant a steady supply of talent and soul masters who could help govern and defend the territory each year. Lin Chuan planned to be a hands-off lord. He would set policy and oversee development, but let capable subordinates handle daily administration. After the territory was settled, Shui Qinghe invited Lin Chuan to visit the prince's mansion again. His attitude left little doubt. He was trying to win Lin Chuan over. Lin Chuan remained non-committal, keeping his distance while maintaining outward amiability. When Tianshui College finally prepared to leave Tiando City, Shui Qinghe still had not managed to extract a clear answer. Watching the train of students depart, Shui Qinghe's expression soured with frustration. That boy was younger than he'd expected, and yet so clever. He welcomed attention from everyone, but was deliberately ambiguous. Any one of those old foxes would have shown themselves sooner. Lin Chuan's cultivation at such a young age, and his ability to conceal it until now, showed he was no fool. It made it impossible to force his hand easily. Still, Lin Chuan had just been made a powerful noble of the Tiando Empire. If Lin Chuan later inherited his power and led Wuhan Palace to unify the continent, Shui Qinghe's opportunities might vanish. If Lin Chuan remained uncooperative, Shui Qinghe's eyes narrowed. Their depths glittered with intent. His current strength wasn't enough to control Lin Chuan, so he would have to wait until Lin Chuan passed the divine examination and achieved godly rank. No matter how potent Lin Chuan's soul techniques were, the distance between a soul master and a god was a chasm. That confidence went a long way toward explaining Shui Qinghe's restraint. Perhaps that was the same reason, in the original telling, why he hadn't killed Tang San. He'd been overconfident in his own talent and strength. Confidence in excess could be a flaw. The last of Tianshui Academy's carriages disappeared from sight. Shui Qinghe turned away and commanded, "Return to the mansion." The carriage rolled back toward the prince's mansion. Shui Qinghe dismissed the servants and walked alone into his study. "Uncle Shui," he called softly. In a shimmer, Snake-Spear Douluo appeared in the room as if from nowhere. "Little Lord," the spirit replied. "How did the investigation go?" Shui Qinghe asked without wasting any time. Snake-Spear Douluo lifted his gaze slowly. "Young master, my men followed your instructions these past few days and kept close watch on Shui Beng. There is something odd." "Oh," Shui Qinghe's interest sharpened. "Tell me." "My men reported Shui Beng's daily behavior is unchanged, but last night he took several people to Shuixing Mansion. My men followed and overheard them discussing whether to win over Lin Chuan." Shui Qinghe's expression darkened as the report reached him, and a cold smile twisted across his face. "Ha! My cheap brother and my cheap uncle. I thought them clumsy and useless, but they were hiding their true colors all along. What a lovely surprise." He realized he'd underestimated them, because he feared arousing Emperor Shui's suspicion and was put off by Shui Beng's foolish act. Shui Qinghe had let his guard down and been deceived. It was infuriating and, at the same time, revealing. Some people truly pretended to be pigs in order to devour tigers. "Young master, shall I eliminate Shui Beng and Shui Xing?" Snake-Spear Douluo volunteered. Shui Qinghe shook his head slowly. "Not yet. If Shui Beng and Shui Xing were to die in quick succession, Emperor Shui would become suspicious. That would be bad for our timing. What do you propose then?" Snake-Spear Douluo asked. A cold, assured smile spread across Shui Qinghe's face. "Don't worry. Since you know Shui Beng is faking, he's not a threat for now. He lacks real power and relies on me. His so-called uncle is only a single supporter. The top priority is the throne. Once I sit there, I can start a controlled avalanche and sweep up everything in my path. Then the rest will fall into place." Snake-Spear Douluo bowed. "Young master is wise." He was an aide of Wuhan Palace and would follow orders without question. If the plan failed because of his failure, he could not bear the blame. "Uncle Shi, what about the Yupo clan members? Weren't they imprisoned in the Wuhun Palace? Shuiqing asked. Snakespear Douluo came back to the matter and nodded. Young master, there is indeed a Yupo clan member imprisoned here. He's the younger brother of the current clan leader. Excellent, Shuiqing said. Send someone to encourage him to improve the potency of the poison he's already been developing. Increase the toxicity, but make sure it stays undetected. I don't have the patience to wait. The plan was clear. Expedite Emperor Shuiye's abdication and seize control of the Tiando Empire as fast as possible. Go at once, Shuiqing ordered. Snakespear Douluo melted into a black shadow and vanished. Outside, the political undercurrents in Tiando City continued without interrupting Lin Chuan's life. He and the others did not return directly to Tianshui College, but rode to Shuiyuan City, the principal town of Lin Chuan's new territory. Stepping down from the carriage and surveying the prosperous city before him, Lin Chuan couldn't help smiling with satisfaction. Chapter 140, The Inheritance of the Earth God Knight, settled quietly over the manor. Lin Chuan sat in the great hall, rubbing his temples in frustration. Damn, so many things to handle in one small city. It's a headache. Seated beside him, Dean Shuilanshan smiled sweetly. What did you expect? Governing a large territory isn't easy. I'm not cut out for it. Dean, please help me. Lin Chuan pushed his book aside and grinned ingratiatingly. Shuilanshan rolled her eyes. Don't be ridiculous. I'm already busy running the academy. If I take on Snowfield City's affairs too, you're trying to work me to death. You don't need to manage everything yourself. Just recommend 2 reliable people to help. As the Marquis of this territory, Lin Chuan had the authority to name city lords and officials across his lands. Snowfield City had previously been under imperial administration, so most former officials were no longer usable. All right, I'll keep an eye on it. Shuilanshan didn't refuse, she nodded. Lin Chuan's grin widened. Thank you, Dean. Also, when your students graduate, tell them to come to me first. I don't want the good ones going to outsiders. You're shameless, boy. Shuilanshan protested, but she didn't refuse. With the Marquis territory in a precarious situation, Lin Chuan had been unusually generous to his people. Bringing academy graduates into his service was a sensible move. The next morning, everyone gathered in the hall. Lin Chuan looked at the girls assembled and asked, surprised, "So you plan to stay in my Snowfield City?" A few of them nodded. Graduation is coming. We haven't decided where to go. It wouldn't be right for all of us to stay at the college as teachers, like Sister Shuiwu. Why don't we come help Brother Chuan? Chiro Shui said with a mischievous wink. You won't treat us badly, right? Of course not, Lin Chuan replied. You're all my people. I can't promise titles, but I won't stingy with training resources. The girls laughed. No one expected anything more. Lin Chuan's hospitality was well known. Senior Dugu, what are your plans? Someone asked. Dugu Bo glanced at his granddaughter. Her heart was clearly set on Lin Chuan, and he couldn't help but sigh. What else can we do? If Yanzi follows him, then it's only natural I follow too. Ye Lingling chimed in, surprising a few by announcement, I'll ask my grandfather and mother to move our family to Shuiyuan City. Shui Lanqin and Leng Man exchanged looks but said nothing. Dugu Bo and Ye Rong were officially consultants to Tianshui College, but everyone knew they only held those positions because of Lin Chuan. A titled Douluo and a supreme healing soul master would be honored guests anywhere. With Dugu Bo's and the Ye family's support, Lin Chuan's territory would develop far faster than anyone imagined. With his talent, a breakthrough to a titled Douluo was all but certain. The Marquis territory could one day grow into a principality or even a small kingdom. Shui Lanqin clenched her fists inwardly. She'd been here first. She couldn't be left behind. Yanzi, see if you can examine this. Lin Chuan pulled a black token from his spirit storage and handed it to Dugu Yan. That came from the Tiando Empire's treasury, Xiao Chuan, didn't it? Dugu Yan recognized it at once. Others leaned in, curious. The token looked ordinary, but there was something about it that made them uneasy. What does it do? Shu Yue reached out and tapped it. That's an inheritance of a divine throne, Lin Chuan said. If it recognizes you, you'll qualify to inherit that divine throne. What? The hall erupted. Except for Ye Lingling, everyone stared at the black token as if it were the most precious treasure on earth. Dugu Yan herself was stunned. She hadn't expected it to be so valuable. Then, in a gesture that surprised everyone, she solemnly handed the token back to Lin Chuan. This is a divine throne's relic. Brother Chuan, you should inherit it. Yanyan, Dugubo started, at a loss for how to object. Who could criticize such a selfless act? Lin Chuan felt touched. She had resisted temptation and returned the artifact. She was a good girl. This relic is tied to the Earth God, he explained gently, stroking her dark hair. It would suit you, Yanzi, but whether it recognizes you for the God examination depends on fate. He wasn't eager to take the token himself. He'd already tried sensing it and felt nothing beyond ordinary power. He suspected the Earth God simply didn't favor him. It was odd. Given the talent he'd shown, being unrecognized seemed almost unbelievable, but perhaps it was a matter of compatibility. Don't just stand there, Lin Chuan urged. Try pouring your soul force into it. Duguyan blinked, determination flaring in her eyes. She trusted him completely. Taking the black token in both hands, she poured her spirit power into it. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then the token rejected her power, and she groaned, dizzy. She collapsed to the floor, still clinging to the relic. Yan Yan! Dugubo lunged forward, but Lin Chuan held up a hand to stop him. Don't worry, Yanzi may have just triggered it. How can you be so sure? Dugubo demanded, unsettled by the fainting. Lin Chuan only smiled and pointed. The black token, which had looked dull before, suddenly shone. A warm, yellow light swelled from it until the entire room was awash in golden brilliance. The token seemed animate. At its base, a small slice opened and cut Duguyan's finger. Blood welled and was drawn into the token. The yellow light stuttered and darkened into a crimson glow. Then a shape emerged from the light, a tall, faded silhouette, massive as a mountain, its features indistinct but its presence unbearably heavy. The shadow's gaze swept the room, pausing on Lin Chuan and Ye Lingling. For an instant it felt as if the hall were being measured by an ancient being, then the light winked and sank back into the token. The glow faded, and the token lay quietly in Duguyan's hand. Was that a god? Someone whispered. Nobody had fully regained their composure. Lin Chuan shook his head with a half-smile. I can't be certain, but it was close. We'll know for sure when Yanzi wakes. At that moment, Duguyan's eyes fluttered open. They were a little glassy at first, but clarity returned as she took in her surroundings. Yanzi, did you get recognized for the god examination? Dugubo asked, nearly breathless. She nodded, beaming. Yes, the Earth God recognized me. I've qualified for the god examination. Now I just have to go to the exam site to begin. Dugubo's face broke into a rare, radiant smile. He had once envied Gu Yi, but now his granddaughter had secured the opportunity to take the god examination. He felt vindicated. He turned to Lin Chuan, eyes solemn. Little Lin, I can never repay you for what you've done for Yanzi and our family. I swear, as long as I live, I will never let you die before me. Lin Chuan waved him off. Senior Dugu, you honor me. Given Yanzi and my relationship, I'm only doing what I should. Don't celebrate too early, Lin Chuan added. Qualifying for the god examination doesn't guarantee becoming a god. Yanzi, you must work hard from here on. She nodded, earnest. Don't worry, Xiaochuan. I won't let you down. Congratulations, Yanzi. Shui Lanqin stepped forward to offer her praise, though her eyes glittered with envy. The other girls followed, warm in their congratulations, but their words were tinged with jealousy. Xiaochuan, you're biased, Shui Yuer pouted, unable to hide her resentment. They'd been the ones who had come first, after all. Yuer, Shui Binger scolded sharply. They might be close, friends beyond normal bounds, but that didn't give them license to speak carelessly. Lin Chuan rolled his eyes. Yuer, what are you thinking? These divine heirlooms aren't like cabbages I can pick at will. I was lucky this time. The people of the Tiando Empire didn't know their value, so I bought them at a bargain. That's not it, Shui Yuer hurried to clarify, embarrassed. I'm just afraid that Sister Yan and Lingling will become gods, while my sister and I are left behind and end up dragging you down. Relax, Lin Chuan said. Even if you don't hold an inherited divine relic yet, you can still sit the god examination. It will take time and preparation, but the chance is there. Really? The girls' faces lit with renewed hope. Of course, Lin Chuan replied, but it'll take a while, so use this time to train hard. Chapter 1141. Leaving morning light sprinkled over the earth, bringing everything to life. Shui Lanshan hurried back to Tianshui City and entered the Shui family's meeting hall, where several elders were already seated. The head of the family was an old woman with silver hair and a lined face, resting in her chair with closed eyes. She was one of the few senior soul masters of the Shui family and its unquestioned pillar. Though some of the elders were restless, no one dared to contradict her. A crisp sound of footsteps came from the doorway. "Sorry I'm late, grandmother elders. I shouldn't keep you waiting, right?" The old woman opened her eyes slowly and smiled. "My dear granddaughter is home. Come sit with grandma." Shui Longxin brightened and went to her side. "Shiner, you called this meeting. What did you want to discuss?" the matriarch asked, taking her granddaughter's hand with unusual gentleness. "Grandmother, I have something important to propose about the Shui family's future," Shui Lanshin said. The old woman and the other elders exchanged surprised looks. Among themselves there was little secret, so Shui Lanshin spoke plainly. "Emperor Shuiye has granted a marquisate. The young man you brought back, grandmother, Xiao Chuan, has risen so quickly. Time flies." The matriarch's eyes clouded with emotion. A marquisate was an honor the Shui family had never held. "So, Lanshin, you think we should depend on him?" A middle-aged elder spoke slowly. "Is that your suggestion?" "Exactly." Shui Lanshin did not hesitate. "Xiao Chuan is closely connected to the Dugu family and has done great favors for the Ye family. Now that he has both title and territory, he'll soon be a force comparable to others. Supporting him now will secure a privileged position we might not get later." The elders nodded in silence. With a titled Douluo's backing and the Yi family's support, as well as Lin Chuan's elixirs and special soul guides, the family's prosperity was only a matter of time. But some still hesitated. "We don't have to rely on him completely," another elder suggested. "After all, he's from Tianshui College. We can maintain a business partnership and not become dependent." Shui Lanshin considered that and answered calmly, "What if that relationship runs dry? Recently, the family's wealth has come largely from Xiao Chuan's elixirs. My strength has improved too. I don't think we'll owe him anything. And besides, he's exceptionally talented. He will likely become a titled Douluo. There's no harm in securing his favor early." "But he was just made a marquis," someone objected. "If we're to ally with a major power, shouldn't we choose the Tiando Empire or the Spirit Hall? Are we going to be cannon fodder for them?" A sharp voice retorted. The hall grew noisy until the matriarch rapped her cane on the floor. "Enough," she said. Then she turned to Shui Lanshin with a smile. "Shiner, tell us your reasons." Shui Lanshin explained, "Xiao Chuan's territory is in ruins at the moment. If we bind ourselves to him now, we'll be among the first beneficiaries. Our status and trust will surpass those who come later. More importantly, he's talented enough to become a titled Douluo, and that kind of powerful ally is a boon, not a burden." She went on, voice steady. "You know how the Tiando Empire and the Spirit Hall have been vying for influence over the major elemental academies. The Spirit Hall has shown its ambitions openly. In a few years, the whole continent could be thrown into chaos. We can't stay neutral forever." The matriarch considered this, then sighed. "If it plays out as you say, Shiner, the family will inevitably be dragged into the conflict. Still, choosing between an empire and the Spirit Hall is risky. At least with Xiao Chuan, the debt is personal and the benefits immediate." Shui Lanshin then transmitted a detail she'd learned. The old woman's cloudy eyes suddenly cleared, and shock crossed her face. "You're not joking?" she asked. "Of course not," Shui Lanshin answered. After a moment of thought, determination hardened the matriarch's expression. "I support Shiner's plan. The family's medicinal trade grew because of that young man. Abandoning him would be a loss. What do the others say?" In the end, every elder agreed. The decision shocked Lin Chuan, though it was welcome news. With the territory in ruins, the Shui family's full support was a lifeline. The Ye family, though small, had plenty of administrative talent to help rebuild. Lin Chuan smiled inwardly. Some things were best left to professionals. At the Shuiyuan City Manor, Lin Chuan lounged on a rocking chair in the yard, basking in the sun while Ye Lingling fussed over him. When Shui Lanshin arrived and saw him, she rolled her eyes. "Xiao Chuan, you really know how to enjoy yourself." "Aren't all nobles like this?" he said without shame, even pride. He had a taste now of what a noble's life could be. No need to work, abundant resources. No wonder so many sought fortune and title. Shui Lanqin's expression turned serious. Don't become one of those nobles who only indulges in pleasure. I'm putting the family behind you. Don't lead us to ruin. Don't worry, Dean. Lin Chuan's voice took on rare gravity. If you trust me, I won't lead you astray. When the territory stabilizes, I'll set out with Yanzi and Lingling. I can't promise the Shui family will become the world's top family, but I'll strive to establish a sect and reach the top 3. That's my promise to you. Shui Lanqin's eyes softened. I'll hold you to that. If you fail, I won't let you go. Lin Chuan grinned. And if I succeed, then maybe I'll let you cling to me for a lifetime. You little pervert. Shui Lanqin blushed and scolded him, but she was relieved. There's still much to do. I should get back to work. A month passed in a blink. With the Shui family and Ye family cooperating, Lin Chuan had almost entirely taken control of the territory. Trustworthy people now filled key posts across the cities. He'd slightly underestimated both himself and how appealing a noble's territory was to young soul masters. Many had come to join him. For now, they remained outside the inner circle until their abilities were properly assessed, but the rear was stable. Lin Chuan hadn't forgotten the unresolved threats of the Haotian sect, Tang San, and the looming continental conflict. He had to gather strength now or be at the mercy of events later. Outside the manor, a carriage was waiting. Dean, Aunt Ye, I leave Shuiwan City in your hands, he said quietly to Shui Lanqin and Ye Rong. Don't worry, Shui Lanqin answered. When you return, this territory will be transformed. Ye Rong smiled. Take care of Lingling. I will. I'll also take care of Yanzi. Lin Chuan nodded seriously. Du Gubo added in a deep voice. Lin boy, don't worry. I won't let anyone trample your territory, but you must let me look after Yanyan. You have my thanks, senior. Lin Chuan bowed slightly. We'll be back in 2 or 3 years at most. Farewell, everyone. He waved and climbed into the carriage. As it rolled away and disappeared down the road, Shui Yuer and Shui Binger watched with sadness and reluctance in their eyes. Shui Lanqin put a hand on their shoulders and smiled with some sorrow. If you don't want him to leave, you could go with Xiao Chuan. Shui Yuer forced a smile and shook her head stubbornly. No, Aunt Shui. Sister Yan and Lingling are preparing for the god's test. I don't know how much stronger they'll be when they return. You two. Shui Lanqin shook her head and then took a jade bottle from her soul guide. Xiao Chuan asked me to give this to you before he left. He told me to tell you to train hard. When he comes back, he'll take you to the god's test. Whether the gods acknowledge you depends on your effort. The sisters' eyes lit up. They looked at one another and shared a quiet determination. Aunt Shui, don't worry. Binger and I will work hard. We won't fall behind Yan and Lingling. Then do your best. Shui Lanqin smoothed their hair gently, her expression soft. If they wanted to stand by Lin Chuan's side later, they would need every advantage they could earn.